pick up on all the stuff. Remember all that stuff.
Yep.
Let's call this meeting to order. Everyone check in, please. What I wanted to tell you right away is Oshkosh is not here tonight. They got school board, they've got council, and they've got us. They got us all filled up, ready to go. They're not here, it's not working, so we're gonna have to take things off from our Zoom and that and record it from there. So just so everyone knows right away that we'll not be on here tonight. So everyone should be signed in, so we'll go for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Supervisor Powers.
Thank you. Every chair, I've been asked to say a prayer first before the invocation on the death of retired county board member Claude Thompson. Acknowledging we humbly beseech you, a sheep of your own fold, a lamb of your own flock, a sinner of your own redeeming. Receive him into the arms of your mercy, into the rest of everlasting peace, into the glorious company of the saints of light. Amen. And now the invocation. O great Creator, you have filled the world with beauty. Guide all who govern in local, state, or national interests, that we may be a people at peace among ourselves and a beacon of integrity to other nations. As members of the county board, give us courage, wisdom, and foresight to provide for the needs of all of our people. Amen.
Before we have tonight's adoption of agenda, being chairman, I would like to go ahead and the first thing on the resolution, and that I would like to move resolution number 175 and then 194 right after. That's the bailiffs, and that's because we have the judge that presides over them. He'll be here. And then 194 is all the capital improvements, rather than having that at the end so everybody's not sleeping and got to talk about it. I just soon get them out of the way. So that'll be 175 and then 194. I have a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. This time I'd like to ask Judge Jorgensen to go and swear in Julie here as an official clerk here, so she can actually do all this work that she's been doing here for a while.
All right, please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. Having been appointed to the office of Winnebago County Clerk. Swear that I will support the Constitution. Of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin. And will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties. Of said office. To the best of my ability. So help me God.
Congratulations. And thank you, Judge. At this time, anyone in the audience may come forward and come to the mic and speak on anything that pertains to Winnebago County, whether it be on the agenda or not. There was a 2-minute time limit for you, so please remember that when you're speaking. State your name and address, please.
Paul Eisen, 1807 Brighton Beach Road, Fox Crossing, Supervisor, District 4. I would like to hereby submit to the county clerk a resolution to be forwarded to the Facilities Management Committee to name the main conference room within the proposed David Albrecht Administration Building, the Susan Ertler Conference Room.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to the board this evening? Anyone else? State your name and address, please.
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is John Jorgensen. I'm a citizen of Oshkosh, a judge here in Winnebago County. And I'm speaking as to the bailiff's pay, and I know I'm premature. I saw the agenda and I have to pick up my daughter in about an hour, and I just don't know if I'll be here for that. So I just want to express my support for the pay increase for bailiffs. They provide a very valuable service for the court system, and it's really a bargain deal for what they do for us. They haven't had a raise in over 14 years, and it's time. It's a weird compensation setup, and maybe if you have further questions, Tara is going to be sticking around, can explain to you if you have questions at a later date or time. But the judges all unanimously support this raise, and we ask that you vote for it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the board this evening? Anyone else wishing to speak to the board this evening? Anyone else? Not seeing anyone else, we'll call it motion closed. Oh, I'm sorry, someone on Zoom. I'm sorry, didn't see that. Who you got?
Kathy Bauer.
Kathy Bauer. Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Kathy.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Kathy Bauer. I reside at 709 Lincoln Street in Menasha in District 1. I would like to comment on the UWO Fox Cities project as I am a supporter. From a decision maker perspective, I see the following. This beautiful area offers great schools from K through 12, which includes a university starting point. Higher education costs are soaring, while UW Fox Cities successfully offers much lower cost with highly rated results. UW Fox Cities offers the Barlow Planetarium, the Weiss Museum, Perry Hall, all of which are revenue generators. Fox Cities is a conduit to UW Platteville Engineering Department, where a major Wisconsin employer recruits engineers. And lastly, the U.S. economy is shifting, and Wisconsin is either going to be left behind or potentially at the forefront. To keep Wisconsin at the forefront, good educational decisions must be made now. But now I would like to share how UW Fox City has benefited my own family. Many times decision makers don't have access to the trickle-down effects of their decisions. So when my grandchildren were young, I took them to the Barlow Planetarium and the Weiss Center. And little did I know that these trips were the genesis of work-life goals. One grandchild is now an aerospace engineer working in Platteville, and the other is pursuing a forensic anthropology career path. Amazingly, the aerospace engineer will tell you that the Barlow Planetarium and the Weiss Center were the conduits that planted the seeds. The future forensic anthropologist will state that the Weiss Center, along with the Menasha Police Department, were educational seeds. And lastly, as a retiree, I will be signing up for classes over there in the very near future. The knowledge that I don't have to drive to Green Bay or Oshkosh is an attractive option for retirees. So I hope that my representative supports this, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Kristen Lewis.
Hi, my name is Kirsten Lewis. I live at 1032 Grove Street in Menasha. I would also like to speak on the issue of the UWO Fox Cities branch. I just wanted to speak a little bit about the fact that it is so incredibly important to have affordable post-secondary education in the area. I'm actually a student. I'm actually sitting in the building right now. So I'm currently going to this school. I think it's fantastic that we have someplace so close to home. And it's, even though it is a UW Oshkosh school, it is more affordable than the Oshkosh campus. I also think it is incredibly important that we attract talent here in the area. We have these young people here, and without this school, they may choose to leave, which is going to severely damage the economy and local atmosphere. So I would just like to state that I would be in huge support of updating both the dining services and the union area of the school, as it has not changed in decades. So I'd just like to state that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Okay, not having anyone on, we thank you all and we'll continue on. Communication, petition, memorials, accounts, commendations, etc. And so,
First, I would like to thank everyone for your support. It means a lot to me, and I will do my best to make you proud. I have a long list for you tonight. I have 2 notices of claims, one from Christy Wolf for damage to vehicle caused by Winnebago County snowplow, and one from Winona Potter for damage to vehicle caused by a county highway department vehicle. Both of those will be referred to the Personnel and Finance Committee. We have 2 zoning petitions. Both will be referred to the Planning and Zoning Department. 001 is from Divine Journey Home Buyers LLC in the town of Winnie County to rezone from R1 to R2. And 002 for Jamie Gregory Freer and James and Patricia Freer, town of Wolf River, to rezone from A2R1 to A2R1. We have a resolution from the city of Menasha to support facilities improvements at UWO Fox Cities. That'll be referred to the legislative committee. And then a number of resolutions from other counties that will all be referred to the legislative committee. Forest County, resolution number 020223, requesting the state of Wisconsin review and revise the entry-level compensation rate for assistant district attorneys. Greene County, a resolution requesting state to revise the current real estate transfer fees revenue sharing formula. Kenosha County, a resolution to request the state of Wisconsin to revise the current real estate transfer fees revenue sharing formula. Shawano County, to request the state of Wisconsin to review and revise the entry-level compensation rate for assistant district attorneys. For Sheboygan County, resolution number 22, requesting the state of Wisconsin review and revise the compensation rate for entry-level and experienced assistant district attorneys. And we have a number of commendations tonight. The first one is for Tim Lauren. Tim Lauren started his journey with Winnebago County in December of 1991 as an activity specialist at Parkview Health Center, later becoming the lead activity specialist. Tim has been an essential asset to the activity department at Parkview for many years. He has supported the residents, families, and staff in too many ways to count. His joyful and playful attitude brightened everyone's day. Tim has gone above and beyond during his years of service with the county and with Parkview. He was truly here for our residents, and that was evident by dedication and passion he displayed every day. After 31 years with the county, Tim retired January 9th, 2023. Tim will be continuing his passion for music through a different opportunity. We all wish Tim the best in his retirement. Commendation for Robert Messerschmidt. Bob Messerschmidt began his career with Winnebago County as a janitor watchman in 1996. He was promoted to a Class 2 operator in 1997, then in 1998, promoted to Class 3 operator and assigned as a screen operator for the paving crew. In 2002, he became a grader operator and was responsible for prepping many county and town road paving projects. Bob was extremely dedicated and a hard worker. He excelled at every task he was given for the highway department. With over 26 years of county service, Bob retired from the highway department on February 3rd, 2023. He plans to enjoy his retirement years spending time with family and friends, cruising the high seas. Please join me in expressing our best wishes as Old Blue Eyes enjoys his retirement. Commendation for Barbara Efford Story. Barbara Efford Story began her career with Winnebago County in Human Services, working in the Child Protection Unit for 7 years. She finished her career in the Office of Family Court Services as a mediator, custody evaluator, serving 21 years in that role. Barb was dedicated to helping families and children in both of her positions. She focused on educating parents and challenged them to find ways to work better together so their children would have brighter and safer futures. Barb enjoyed providing outreach within the community and partnered with local agencies to give county-based clients connections in an effort to support them long-term. Barb was a valued team member in each office, always ready to brainstorm on difficult cases or to provide support to coworkers. We appreciate Barb's unwavering commitment to the service of others over her 30 years with Winnebago County and wish her well in her future endeavors. Commendation for Teresa Paulus. Teresa Paulus started working for the Winnebago County Health Department in 1990. As the role of public health nurses evolved over the last 3 decades, so did Teresa's work. She loved the direct care of working with clients and embraced the importance of working with the community to prevent disease and injury. Teresa took on many public health campaigns such as organ donation, mental health awareness, and suicide prevention. She led the work to form a child death review team in 2010, a coalition that still meets today to review cases and advise our county towards a safer environment for children. Teresa served on multiple councils at the state and national level regarding child safety. Most recently, she worked with the Wisconsin Legislative Committee to draft a proposal standardizing death certificates for the state of Wisconsin. Teresa's legacy will continue to impact our work as she enjoys a well-earned retirement. Commendation for Terry Van Dellen Rausch. District Attorney's Office Victim Risk Coordinator Terry Van Dellen Rausch retired in January 2023 after 40 years of service to Winnebago County. Terry navigated victim rights from their infancy decades ago through the implementation of the constitutional amendment, Marcy's Law, in 2020. The role of Victim Witness Coordinator is a delicate one, requiring weighing the interests and concerns of victims, prosecutors, the courts, and advocacy groups. Terry kept a reasonably low profile, but a retirement gathering was held at the Orange King building her last week of employment, perhaps in spite of her wishes. Commendation for Carl Vanderzanden. Carl Vanderzanden retired on January 13th, 2023 after 34 years. He started with Winnebago County Human Services on December 19, 1988 as a delinquency child protection and community options program worker. He wore a lot of hats in the beginning. In 1992, Carl moved to a substitute care position. In 1999, with the reorganization of the agency, Carl accepted the corrections liaison position. When Carl initially started in this position, he supported Winnebago County youth while placed in corrections and upon their return to the community. Throughout the years, the number of Winnebago County youth placed in corrections went down dramatically. Carl moved to a youth justice social worker in 2010. Carl has supported many youth and families in his time with Winnebago County Human Services. We appreciate his work and dedication for 34 years. He will be missed. Commendation for Kelly Hale. Kelly Hale started working at Parkview Health Center in June of 1990 and retired on February 8, 2023 after nearly 33 years of dedicated service. Kelly was an employee that truly made a difference within Parkview. She was dedicated to helping residents with her supervisory knowledge and with her excellent wound care program. Kelly always maintained her professionalism and had an active role with process improvement. There are so many wonderful things to be said for Kelly's hard work ethic. She routinely would work long hours to ensure the facility maintained a high level of service and care. Kelly served Winnebago County and Parkview residents with pride. There will not be another like her. We wish Kelly well in her retirement and thank her for all her many years of dedication. Thank you. You will be missed. And that's it.
Thank you. Reports from committees, commissions, and boards. Supervisor Bender.
I'd just like to say I went to the NACO convention and I had went to a finance and pension seminar, and one of the presenters there actually was from the ARPA commission that helped write that bill. And in the presentation, he said you could take the $10 million. So then when they went to the questions and answers, I asked him, I said, if we had $52 million in losses, is it possible that we could take our whole $33 million? And he said, yes, that is truly correct. We can take the $33 million as revenue loss. And then I talked to another one on broadband, and he said that the state is actually getting quite a bit of money from the federal government, and he wouldn't do anything on broadband. The state should have their plan up by like the end of July, and we should look to see what the state is gonna do before we start spending money on any broadband. Starlink is pretty expensive. It's like $600 for the equipment and over $110 a month for the monthly fee. So he says, wait till the end of July, see what the state plan is, and then move forward from there. So it was a good convention. I would encourage anybody in the future to attend.
Thank you. Supervisor Walter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to bring the board's attention that Winnebago County 4-H Leaders Association pizza sale is going on now. It's that time of year. That's where we get together and make 12-inch pizzas, fresh 12-inch pizzas for $7. You can order them online, Winnebago 4HLeaders.square, or it's probably on the website there. Or you can give them a call at extension office 920-232-1970. But I thank you in advance for your support for the 4-H.
Supervisor Hims.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just an update on the Sawyer Creek floodplain mapping that I had mentioned a few meetings back. We're having problems getting all the people together to get here for these. So March probably isn't going to be happening as far as us bringing that back. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, which is pretty much everybody who was elected in this last election, just before COVID, there was a floodplain mapping coming through from FEMA that had gone through the area, and it was approved by the city. And when it came to the county, this body had sent it back to committee, and then COVID hit, and it kind of fell through the cracks. And what I'm trying to do now is trying to get us back up to speed, because we're the last rung on this ladder that has to take action on this. And that's why I'm trying to make sure that we get enough people here to get enough information, because we have so many us who weren't here when that came through. Hopefully, we're going to be aiming for April. I can't say that for sure. We have a lot of stuff on the agenda. We have to try to make this work out, because the presentation is not going to be a short one. We want to make sure everybody understands what's going on with it. But our goal right now is to get this here, and hopefully sometime in April, so we can get an action taken by this body here. But I know next month we're going to be discussing it as far as the planning and zoning committee, and moving forward from that meeting. So just want to give everybody a heads up that I'm not forgetting about that, but it's not probably going to come next month. It'll probably end up being in April. Thank you.
Supervisor Deputy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hope everyone received my report regarding my NACO legislative conference report. One minor correction. I saw that I typed that we met at 9 p.m. We actually met at 9 a.m. If we met at 9 p.m., there would be no one on that committee. Thank you.
Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want you to know that I have 2 copies of 192 and none of 194. So we're discussing it. Supervisor Pons and I were sort of neck and neck, nose to nose. We're not committing. We're just sharing a piece of paper. Thank you.
Okay, I see no other lights. So next will be approval of proceedings from January 3rd and January 17th, 2023. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Say nay. Carried. County Executive Report.
Thank you, Chairman Egan. First, want to start off by thanking our highway department. Mother Nature really threw a lot at them the last few weeks, and I think they did a fantastic job with our roadways and our bridges, between blowing snow and potential ice and flooding. I think
they often get criticized, and I want to take the time to really thank them for the work that they did and the hours that they put in, making sure that everybody can get home safe to their families. So thank you to all those in the highway department. A lot of people covered NACO. NACO is a great event. We found that there are a lot of resources for the county that are available for us. The question is, do we have the capacity or manpower to go after it? We heard about money still from the feds, and for ARPA, we learned about the Inflation Reduction Act. We learned about the transportation and infrastructure acts. There are a lot of things out there. But it's going to be really hard for us to find, but we're going to do the best that we can to make sure we're doing our job to try to grab on what is our money anyway and bring it back into our community. One of the things that we talk about is there may be money from the Department of Transportation to actually put a planner or an engineer in our highway department. So there's things like that that we're keeping an eye on so we can maximize our efforts here. WCA was today, our conference this morning. Two supervisors were there. Thank you for your attendance. The big talk going around WCA is shared revenue. The talks are not bad. There is negotiation. I will give you my thoughts that I'm optimistic that we will get somewhere on shared revenue. And it's going to come with us working together. And I can tell you that behind the scenes they are. Behind the scenes, our legislator and our governor's office and staff are talking. And we are working things out. And I'm hopeful that we will get to somewhere that's going to help fund us for the future. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the capital improvement plan. This is a historic night for Winnebago County. This is the first time in recent history that we are actually attempting to adopt a capital improvement plan. Next year, it is our hope that we move this into the budget process. The benefits of adopting a capital improvement plan is it gives our facilities and our directors time to actually go out for bids before contractors are jam-packed with work to do. So I really applaud everyone's willingness to look at this process to adopt the capital improvement plan rather than just having the staff draw one up. And again, I'm not saying anything negative about how we've done in the past, but I think this is going to give us some of the tools to go after some of those early bids and hopefully bring some of those price downs. Because as we know, as contractors fill up, the prices go up as well. I want to talk a little bit about UWA Fox Cities campus. Martin Rudd is asking that the cafeteria project be pulled tonight. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. Number one, he wanted to have more time to give you more information about the project in itself. Number two, he wanted to let the engineering go so we can have a truer cost of what this may cost us, instead of just an estimated cost of where we're going. And number three, he's aware that we are in talks with a memorandum of understanding with UWA Fox Cities campus. And I want to tell you, we've had one of those meetings. It was very positive. It was not combative at all. Everybody agrees that this is a 53-year-old agreement and that we need to revisit it. Some of the numbers in there are very old numbers that don't actually account for today's inflation. And those talks are positive. And I am hopeful that at the end of this, we will come out with an agreement that's going to last us the next 50 years. And I think Martin was cognizant of that too. We wanted to make sure that we come out of that with a strong MOU going forward and making sure that we're following the MOU that's in existence. We had some concerns that we weren't exactly keeping up to the contract that exists. But I do want to let you know that those conversations have been they've been productive. And they're willing to listen. They're very attentive, and we still intend to get up to the Board of Regents for further discussion on the future of two-year campuses. Speaking for myself, there's a little bias there. Back in 1999, UWO Fox Cities campus accepted a young John Boehner as a student. Where at the time, UWO would not accept a young John Boehner as a student. So it was very important, believe it or not, Supervisor Zelmer, they accepted me. We have to remember this is a great tool in our county for people that may not be able to afford the full-year tuition costs. It's a great tool in the county for those that may not be the right fit for UWO system. So just remember some of the benefits that we do have out of that. And when Martin comes back to give a further presentation, I hope we ask some good questions. And hopefully we can guide them on this project, and I look forward to seeing them again in the future. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Any questions? If not, you have an appointment.
No questions?
No questions. Oops. Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple of things. One, since April is coming up and it's National County Government Month, have you and the administration thought of any activities that you can help celebrate or educate and inform the public of what the county government does?
I'm sure we can. I'm sure we'll plan a blitzkrieg of posts on our county government page. But that's definitely, communication is something on our forefront that we have been working on, trying to get better at.
Okay, and the second question, part is, I watched the last opening last Friday. First of all, I didn't know we as county board could submit proposals. I didn't know that. And secondly, how does a nonprofit submit a proposal to get some funds? Did they ever contact you? I did tell this executive director to contact you, but how does a nonprofit solicit funds for a program?
First, I would say we have not accepted any proposals yet. Those are done on public comment, which anyone can do. Anyone can come to the commission and do a public comment. The research's been going really well. We had some of our staff from the health department, Heidi Keating and Ashley Rumwell and Doug Gearin came to help kind of facilitate the discussion, how we can look forward to doing some kind of block funding, if you will, to set up our priorities. How are we going to set up our priorities? What is important to us to increase resiliency in Winnebago County? When we get that process down, we'll make it very clear on how people can apply for that. I'm very satisfied with how the reset has been going. And if anybody has not watched the ARPA commission, I urge you please to get on and watch that meeting. It was very, very informative.
Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. County Executive, you mentioned that the UWO agreement will be looked at again. If the parameters are such, would we be able to include Calumet County as one of the, along with Outagamie and Winnebago? Because a good share of Appleton is in Calumet County. And although I don't have the statistics of how many students come from Calumet County, my suspicion is there's sufficiently a number that they ought to be part of the expenditures.
I can tell you that Calumet County did come up in the discussions, whether or not they're coming to, there is another, I guess, thing to deal with when that comes. But no, I don't believe that we have reached out to Calumet to see if they want to get into the partnership. I guess that's the best I can answer your question right now.
Well, just to keep that at the forefront of our thinking, if we're looking at redoing agreements, take a look at that too, please.
Yeah, and to start, and the very title of the agreement is UW Green Bay with the Fox Cities campus. So clearly this is an outdated MOU that needs some refreshing.
Supervisor Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Daniel, thank you for, and also Mr. Norton. Thank you about the address on the ARPA. I was approached by some people over the weekend after the meeting about please be cautious on putting forward monies from ARPA on a nonprofit, on the appearance of how that goes, an auditing process, et cetera. And just leave it at that for now. And you mentioned on resolution 194, is that going to then be a formal amendment as that comes forward to pull that project off of 194?
Well, first of all, let me address your question on ARPA. Just to refresher for everybody, the ARPA Commission does not have any authority to spend. Just to recommend projects to come forward to this board. So any final decision will come to this board for final approval. So there will be some extra oversight on that, and absolutely we'll be very cautious with how we move forward with nonprofits. And
correct. One of the concerns was if you're entertaining nonprofits, that might slow down other projects. So if those are coming forward, please put those that are not nonprofits forward as quick as possible.
Yep, I agree with that. And as far as amendment, that's not my role. I believe there's one that will be considered tonight. I just wanted to give the update from Martin, and I'm sure you will do what you need to do with that information.
Thank you.
Supervisor Swan.
County Executive, you mentioned that with regard to UW Fox Cities campus and the MOU agreement, that the executive would be desiring a meeting with the Board of Regents. And my question is, why do you feel that's necessary? And then do you have a timeline for, or have you established that time for a meeting yet?
Well, I feel that's necessary above and beyond the MOU that we're discussing. I think the executive from Fond du Lac of Washington County and other county administrators, some of these 2-year schools, want to make sure that we know that there's a solid plan in place for the UW system, not just a 2-year campus, the 4-year campuses. I mean, there's some issues that we have to deal with. But also we want to make sure that the Board of Regents is going to the legislators and asking them to invest as well. If the legislators aren't willing to invest in the UW system, it can't just be on counties to hold the burden. So we want to make sure that they're going to do their part to go after the funding they need, and that we have some good collaboration and partnerships, because none of us can settle this on our own. And of course, with Richland Center, that gave some people some concern, you know, when they shut down a 2-year campus. And oddly enough, I'm trying not to pontificate here, but one of the worst things for the UW system has been the economy, because it's really been going well. I mean, I go to school when you can go and get a job for $26 an hour that we no longer need degrees for. That being said, there are a lot of global models right now that are pointing to a recession, and I hope that doesn't happen. But if that did, there's going to be plenty of people looking to go get further degrees and education. So I kind of hope that is not how we solve the issue, that we figure out another way forward. But I just want to make sure that there's, beyond our MOU, that there's a good partnership with the whole UW system in general.
Okay, so you believe that this goes beyond just the authority given to the chancellor in this matter?
Correct. I think
with the MOU, you believe that the regents need to become involved because it's a larger issue, it's a statewide issue that we need to resolve rather than, and with the legislature rather than just with our 2 counties or our 3 counties?
The chancellor has been granted authority to deal with the MOU, and that is the short-term goal for us to make sure that contract is solid and mutually beneficial, and that they're following the expectations on that, and that we're following the expectations on that.
Right.
The future of the 2-year system as a whole, that is a larger conversation that some of us executives and other county administrators want to get together with the Board of Regents to discuss what is the plan.
Okay, but in terms with how it affects UW Fox Cities campus and the kitchen and common area upgrade, do you believe that the decision-making process with regard to that could be dealt with locally related to the MOU, and that the engineering study could then be released for continuation concurrent with those negotiations, so that the process isn't held up unnecessarily long for a larger discussion that would be, related to the regents and the rest of the state? Because the trustees have held up, they'll continue to hold up the engineering study that we already approved at the county level here in Winnebago County. And so, we need some direction in terms of when we can release that, so, an efficient process can continue with regard to this information that we need to provide for our board.
I think we're on track. The engineering isn't done yet.
We can't do it because it's been held up by the trustees.
Well, the engineering was approved, the funding for that was approved by this, but
It's being held up at it's being held up at the trustee level. And it's been held up because the feeling, at least from Allegheny County, is that, that this MOU needs to be dealt with first. My question is, can that be dealt with by the chancellor rather than the regents, so we can get this engineering study released and continued?
I don't think I can answer. I'm not sure if I could answer that. I understand the pause. I mean, they're asking for 26% of what we bond for in a year, 10 million. That's a big chunk. And Mr. Supervisor Schellinger brought up some good points when he brought that up in the last board meeting. So we want to make sure that we're getting it right.
So we need to have the engineering done, engineering done to know that we're getting it right.
Sure.
And that's being held up. And my question is, can that be dealt with at the, between the chancellor in the counties, rather than the regents in the counties, at that level, so that we can release this engineering study to complete?
Well, it was already appropriated by both boards. So that'll be between me and Executive Nelson in Allegheny County. And I'm sure that administratively we will get that engineering done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, President.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Executive Damo, for your report. So I attended the majority of the ARPA committee, or the meeting there. It was very informative. Some of the things that I heard were from the health department. Lots of notes taken. They're encouraging us to strategize best use of funding. What is our end goal? And I really appreciated our supervisors and what they had to share. And I heard a recurring theme, I guess maybe it's because I support it, which would be, really focusing on the municipalities, townships, that this should be for the entire community. And I think he's a banker. He's on the committee. He said that this would be about $200 per 170,000, for all of the people in the area. At the end, the health officer said, what are the things that you agree with, or what are the things you disagree with? And I guess based on what I heard, I think getting money back to the taxpayers and focusing on the municipalities is an important thing. Our infrastructure to support homeless, and I guess it was. So I guess my question to you is, why was the health department asking the board what the committee what their high level goals are? I kind of felt that was manipulative or controlling.
I can say that we tried very careful. We were trying to be very careful not to do that. I think me and Chairman Egan are both co-chairs of that committee, and we were very clear that they were just to facilitate how that commission comes up with priorities. not for them to give us priorities, not for them to direct us on what our priorities are, but how to facilitate that. Whether you agree with some of the things the health department or does or not, they are really good at facilitating some of these meetings and facilitating how you come to priorities, and that's what we wanted to use them for. How to give us a little bit more staffing to get us more organized, so that we can be more clear to the community of what we want to focus on. What are the things that are really going to help our community out to kind of give us a little bit more focus, so it wasn't just shooting from the hip. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but we're very cognizant of making sure that we are the ones that are making those decisions and recommending to this full board great projects that are going to help our people out.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Gabbard.
I'll make this quick, John, which is unusual for me. The engineering study. So we always drag our feet. And whatever we do with anything to do with facilities. So we've approved the funding and now it's snagged up. So I'm going to piggyback on Supervisor Swan. If we had that study, we wouldn't have to have all these conversations. So I don't understand why we can't move forward with that. And I don't know that you've answered that question for me personally, but when people ask me, are we sure we're spending $4 million or is it going to be $6 million? Have you done the engineering study? Of course not, because we just don't. So it's concerning to me. Number two, nonprofits. How does a nonprofit who helped us out prior apply to the ARPA committee or to whoever they have to? I don't want to miss one in particular, but they may not know they can apply for this. So I need to know how that goes down so that there isn't a cliquey little group of nonprofits that may already be getting something from us. And I don't think this nonprofit would need a lot, but they should be in the picture. So how do I let them know what to do?
Sure. Your first question, how did the engineering get held up? I think the engineering got held up from the Allegheny side. Some of the board of trustees were concerned. So that was not held up on our end. And Mike, I believe that's correct, right? Unless I speak out of turn. So not really sure, but it does need both of us to go for that to work. And I probably didn't answer your question, but that's the best that I have.
What are we looking at? 30 days, 60 days, 90 days?
We're ready to go. Again, it'll have to be a conversation with me and the executive medicine to see if they're ready to go.
Okay.
I think after tonight's going to help that along. And as far as the nonprofits, I'm not sure yet. It depends on whatever the process we decide to come up with. Whether, we list some priorities and maybe a nonprofit can, that goal fits the priorities, maybe they apply for a portion of whatever we set aside for that goal.
Should they send a letter now saying that they are interested or wait for some feedback?
I would wait to see what the commission sets up as priorities.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the third thing is, don't forget about the towns and the little cities and the villages, because at one time there were numbers floating around to possibly get each community, I'll call it a stipend of the ARPA money. So those are all taxpayers, those are all voters. So don't forget about the little guys out there that are running warships.
I can tell you towns and villages and the little cities are a hot topic at WCA today in shared revenue. We understand how hard it is for a volunteer fire department or a town to afford a fire truck. That is on the top of minds of everybody out there. EMS or EMT, those rural communities that really are that first call. They usually have the pages on in church. I know those people. So through us and through the state, I think everybody is aware of that, and it's very top of mind.
Because you used to live in a township, so I know you live in the city now, but don't forget about us out there, because We are taxpayers.
Right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Bender.
The trustees from Allegheny County were basically told not to release that engineering and design study until the MOU is complete. It would hardly be good negotiations. We're gonna spend $350,000. What if they don't wanna meet the conditions that we want? Then we're not gonna pay for the cafeteria. Allegheny County is not gonna fund it if we don't get a new MOU. So why would they pay $350,000 with this engineering study and then Chancellor Levitt sees we spent that money, so more likely, if he doesn't give us what we want, we'll still do the cafeteria. They're not gonna do the cafeteria, they're not gonna do the engineering study until that MOU is written. So the sooner we can get that, the sooner we can maybe move this project forward. I agreed with them, I didn't vote for it, Supervisor Swan did. But even if I would have voted for it, then 2-2 would have failed. But I believe, if we're gonna move this forward, it has to be a good faith negotiations between the three entities. We have to get an MOU that we're all happy with, because there's things in there that I brought up several years ago, probably 4 years ago, that we're paying for, we shouldn't be paying for. And I would like to get them straightened out, and if they work with us and we get an agreement, I say move it forward. But tell them, it's like, why did we spend $350,000 if they don't come up with a good MOU? Allegheny County's not gonna fund the cafeteria, so then we got a plan sitting on a shelf with no money. So I think it's wise then to do this step first and then move it forward. Another 6 months might cost us a little bit extra inflation, but if we do go into a recession, contractors might be looking for it, might be cheaper. If you really don't, you don't know how the economy is gonna go, but I can tell you, if there's a recession, things will be cheaper.
Supervisor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we can do both. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. There is a memorandum of understanding in place, and the process of updating it should not stop work that's already in progress. In listening to Supervisor Swan, I think what he was asking for is a clarification on timeline and the process, because what you're describing is two different things: a memorandum of understanding and working with the Board of Regents. So can you offer some clarification on the timeline for negotiating this MOU and then clarification on the process for the other part?
Sure, and to be clear, I think it's three separate things. I think it's the Board of Regents, I think it's the MOU, and I think it's the project. But it seems that the project is being held up for the negotiations of the MOU. And I think that is the decision of the Board of Regents. However, I would question the authority of that, the money was appropriated. So I guess if the executive Nelson and I discussed, and we think that there's good faith going forward, that I think we could get working on that engineering. Because I'd like to know, I'd like to see some other options for them. But because of the two county situation we're in, I don't have a clear timeline for you. I wish I did, and I'm sorry for the answer.
Is that something that you can look into and bring back?
Something I could work with Executive Nelson on and see if we can come up with an agreement. Absolutely.
I just think if the funding has already been allocated for the engineering study, and we need the engineering study to make an informed decision about the improvement project. And so going forward with the study, while we are negotiating the memorandum of understanding, like I said, I don't see why we can't do both. So if you could work for some clarification on the timeline, because I would hate for this to be drawn out, and then suddenly we find ourselves in a situation where we are in danger of losing our two-year campus because of our actions or inaction. And that is not a place where we want to be as Winnebago County, and it's not a place that the city of Menasha wants to be either.
You know, I will tell you that I'm confident we will not be losing it to your campus, and I'm confident the MOU negotiations will be a speedy process. They're very willing to be at the table. I think it's going to be a very quick process where we hash it out. I'll get back to you on timeline as soon as I know. I'll send out an email with an update to the full county board as I get information in.
Thank you.
So we just one second time.
Right. Just quickly, I agree with what both Supervisor Bender and Supervisor Nichols have said. My line of questioning really is to not allow this process to be held up with an unnecessary lengthy wait for a response from a board of regents when the operational authority has been given the Chancellor Levitt to deal with this at the local level. That's the most important point I'm trying to make here is, Chancellor Levitt has this authority. We can negotiate with him, get what needs to be done, to move forward the engineering project and on this Fox City's kitchen and common area. Let's do it locally, and we can also deal with the Board of Regents issue as well. But why allow that to hold us up when we can already do it with the local?
No, I agree, and again, I believe those are separate issues, so I don't think the Board of Regents issue will hold any of this up. It seems to me that the engineering and the MOU are connected. At the last meeting, the Chancellor said that he expects us to have an agreement pretty quick. It's not going to take us long to go through that and say, yep, you've been doing this, no, you haven't been doing this. And I want to get into the details, but those are two separate issues.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And your appointment.
Thank you. Thank you all for the discussion. For the Board of Health, I'd like to appoint Supervisor Josh Powell of Oshkosh to a term expiring July 1st of 2024.
Motion made and second approved. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Carried.
Thank you all.
I have a few things tonight, and being that we're just talking about, I got a letter here from Menasha saying that, yes, Menasha. Be it further resolved, the mayor and common council of the city of Menasha requests Winnebago County, Outagamie County fund the food service and student union project and the 2023 capital improvement plans, recognizing this respective role in surrounding our state and local economy and keeping an UWO Fox Cities campus viable and accessible choice in the Fox Cities region. Be it further resolved that this resolution be sent to Winnebago County Executive and Board Chair, Outagamie County Executive and Board Chair, and Winnebago County Board of Supervisors. So I don't know if you all got it or if you read it, but all the different ones are signed down here, all their aldermans, all their mayors and all that. So I wanted to make sure if you didn't get it, it's got a little bit lengthier than that, but I wanted to make sure that you all got that. Second thing I wanted to show you is this here has something to do with the whole county. We're, I don't know if you want to say fortunate enough, but in our township, town of Westford, we were granted this. We got to be newsmaker of the year. It's sometimes nice, but this time I don't say it'd be as great, but it was over about, it's called Civic Community Opposed Sex Offender Place of Residence. Well, here was this place that they were going to put that sex offender in town of Westford. It was in an old church. And that's where they were going to put him, right on the main drag. There was a 80-some-year-old lady there that was so frightened she didn't know if she should get a gun. There was some people there that had kids just down across the road. They weren't within the 1,500 feet, but they're across the road, so it didn't matter. There's some people there that have grandchildren right next door. So, but that didn't matter because they weren't attached and the kids weren't there all the time. So this was going to be, but thank goodness, thanks to county executive, the sheriff, Mary Ann, there was a lot of them that was involved in this in our township, showed up at all the hearings and all this and that. And we fought this really hard. Well, thank goodness we got it resolved. This is a beautiful place now. It's all green and this and that. It's made into a beautiful family home. It's got an upstairs in it and everything now. And so this is what we could have had there with a sex offender there. So, and this person wasn't from our township whatsoever. There is none from any of the towns, sex offenders. So if you have any coming in or whatever, all I can say is go out and fight for it and hope for the best. I can't promise you, but I think if you talk to the right ones, you'll be finding out there'll be more coming out. So who knows where they're going to be, but so just go ahead and remember this is for the county. It wasn't just our township was lucky enough to get it, but it was for the county that actually got it all and fought for it and deserved it. I don't know how many of you know that we're going to have another retirement coming up, which is going to be a big one. Mary Krieger is leaving us. Mary had worked for Winnebago County for over 33 years, starting on January 26, 1990, as an account clerk #1 in the treasurer's office. On May 25th, 1993, Mary was promoted to deputy treasurer. On April 26, 2000, Mary became Winnebago County treasurer. And Mary's last day in office here will be on April 3rd, 2023. So we'll be losing another one. I'm not sure what all will be done for her, Matt. I'm sure it won't be a big party or whatever like we had for Sue, because Sue worked directly for us. Not that Mary wasn't as important or whatever, but Sue worked directly for the county board. So, but if you get to see Mary, go ahead and thank her for all of her service. I appointed another person here that's, she had been financial associate in Winnebago County's treasurer's office, processing tax payments, department deposits, checking scans, use valuable charges, customer service, payment plans, taxes, lottery and gaming, credit audits, and assists the foreclosure process. So she's been with us since 2014 till present. Her name is Amber Hoppe. So I'd like to have a motion for the approval of Amber Hoppe. Is there a second? I heard a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Thank you. She'll be a good replacement, I'm sure, and we'll be losing another good one. We have a lot to go, so I'm not going to talk anymore tonight. There were great questions that you all had for the county executive. I'm afraid you're going to start asking me other questions. So, but anyways. So at this time, I'd like to call Sheriff John Motz and Captain Laura Van Mezer. I never get her last name right, but we know who she is. So they're going to talk to her on presentation of radio replacement project. Now this is just talking about it. This doesn't mean that we're going to do it or whatever. It's just a presentation at this time.
Okay, so we'll try to make this very brief and in very simple terms, just so we'll give you a little bit of historical perspective. We built our radio system in 2013. There's a 10-year window or a 10-year lifespan of the radios. We were told that 10 years ago, and this is the replacement of the radios. The infrastructure is still good, and we have a maintenance agreement that keeps it all up to date. But in order to stay up to date, we need to upgrade the radios as well.
So we have a clicker today, so I'll be looking over at Julie. Or Cassie's going to do it for us. So the sheriff just basically hit the first 2 slides in 2 sentences. So we're going to go through them super quick, and we'll see. Forget that. That's okay. All right, so I'll just talk while she's clicking. So the simplest terms for the history lesson are that we have infrastructure in place that we built in Winnebago County between 11, 12, and 13. Winnebago County spent almost $11 million 10, 11, 12 years ago to get all of that up and ready to go. At that time, like the sheriff said, we knew that the radios would have an approximate 10-year lifespan. The vendor says 7, but we've been pretty good. We've had pretty good luck with 10 years historically within Winnebago County. So we're at 10 years and it's time. So this project itself was initially part of the CIP plan. There was some discussion back and forth with the county executive, finance office, where the funding will be, where it's going to go. This is why this particular project is not included in the CIP plan that you'll hear about later tonight that the administration director has already presented. So this is just sort of separate. One of the things that was mentioned was how Yep, go ahead, sorry. Yep, so One of the things that we talked about earlier, the sheriff mentioned earlier, is that we invested at about $11 million total. It was about $5 million in radio infrastructure, another $5.5 million in subscriber units, which are these radios that you hold in your hand, radios that you put inside vehicles. At that time, 10 years ago, 11, 12 years ago, there was a federal narrowbanding mandate that forced the county's hand rather quickly and unexpectedly. And at that time, the Winnebago County agreed to purchase radios for all the police and fire agencies in Winnebago County as a one-time purchase at that time. Go ahead, thank you. So we have, you skipped one, if you can go back one, that's okay. Oh, forward, well, that's okay, we're all over the place. So the next page, go ahead and skip to the next one, we'll just keep going, that's all right. So when I talk about infrastructure, this is what's in the basement of our building right here. This is millions of dollars worth of equipment that dispatches all the public safety agencies in Winnebago County. We have a lot of money and it's all Motorola products or Motorola endorsed products. Next one, please. You'll recall 2 years ago, we had a CIP project that replaced the microwave links in Winnebago County. We invested $330,000 to replace that key infrastructure, and we did it through our local vendor, Baycom. And the same quote for the same equipment through Motorola directly was $1.2 million, but Motorola was able to, Baycom was able to do it for us for $330,000 because of the relationship that we have with our sole source provider. Next. So I talked a little bit about the narrowbanding mandate that essentially forced all public safety's hands around 2011. And when we did that, we entered into a 30-year agreement with Outagamie County. As such, we share a structure and a core system with Outagamie County that we will continue to maintain through 2031. As the sheriff mentioned, we're in a 4-year maintenance agreement currently with our existing equipment, and they work really well to keep all the equipment up to date. The only piece that hasn't been replaced or that needs to be replaced again are the small handheld radios, as well as the radios that are installed inside of vehicles. Next, please. So this is what we own today in Winnebago County. And when I say Winnebago County, I mean all the departments that are governed in Winnebago County. So that's facilities, that's highway, the DA's office, of course, the sheriff's office, the medical examiner, and the health department. So those are the departments within Winnebago County that the sheriff's office is coordinating this bulk purchase for. We are doing it out of ease and convenience for the departments. I've had contact with all the department heads involved, and they all agree it makes sense for us to do it as one purchase instead of 6 or 7 separate contracts between all those department heads for the same exact product and the same exact radios. So we have 80 radios that we have to replace. Those are the vehicle well-mounted radios, 325 portables, and then 12 other additional components that are some extra pieces that we need to do. Again, Motorola says 7 years, we're at year 10, and that's really what we expect. Go ahead, next, please. If you're looking for a specific breakdown of which department needs to buy what and how much each one costs, that's the high-level overview of what they look like. Again, there's different styles of radios that we buy for different departments. The sheriff's office, I will throw it right out there, we are much tougher on our radios than, say, facilities or the DA's office. Ours are much more ruggedized by design, and they last longer by design because of what we do to them or what we have done to them in the past out in the field. So they do cost more, and that's just the way it is. That's the way the pricing goes. So these prices that are up here are based upon a quote that we got in April of 22. We're hopeful that it's not going to go up again. It went up pretty significantly in the last year. Next, please. There are additional costs besides the actual radios themselves that have to be replaced. There's programming associated with each one. We have to buy about 420 total. We have to install the mobiles in all the vehicles, which is a cost. The accessories cost money, the banks, the chargers cost money. Everything costs money, right? Everything is piecemealed separately. But the things that we aren't buying, we're not going to replace. We're not going to replace the cases that come with these. I can take it separate. There's a lot of different shapes and styles of cases. We're not going to buy new ones. They're going to have to use their old ones. We're not buying extra batteries. Departments are going to have to buy their own. So we tried to really pare down this proposal to be the absolute bare minimum of what we need to function. Next, please. So we have to buy 422 for all the county departments. If you look back in time, you'll see in the CIP book from 20 to 25 and 20 to 26, it listed $700,000 a year. which totals times 3 years, 2.1 million. This proposal is not 2.1 million. These prices have gone up since that time. We're closer to 2.5 million now. And when we started planning this back in the fall of 21, between the fall of 21 and the spring of 22, it increased over $350,000. I have no idea what it's going to look like in the next year. I'm hopeful that we get this done in this year and it doesn't go up again. Part of the business is that we have to trade in these old ones, and they're going to give us a cost back for some of the old ones. The radios have to be wiped so that nobody else can use them. I know there had been some talk about perhaps fire departments having interest in purchasing some of the old ones that we might get rid of. They can if they want to, but they use a different radio. The fire departments have, and don't quote me on this because I'm not a firefighter, but they have some sort of anti-static grounding feature built into them that they want in their radios for when they go into fire that we don't have in our radios. So I don't know that they'd actually be interested in buying ours because of the spark hazard. So next page, next red is the big number. So the purchase price is close to $2.5 million. We had talked with the finance director about what would be appropriate contingency to add on to the top, as is common with CRP projects. We suggested 10%, which makes it over 2.7. I don't think we only need 10%. I'm hopeful that we wouldn't need 10% over. I'm hopeful that it's really close to this dollar amount. When we started narrowing down with the departments who needed what, and I thought this was going to be approved by our funding back in January when that meeting changed course, I had narrowed down with the highway department and the facilities department exactly who needs what when, so that I was prepared to order essentially the next day. And I'm confident that this 2.477 is very, very close, assuming the prices haven't gone up again or don't go up before we actually place this order. Next, please. And just to be clear that we did consider alternatives. We did look at other pieces of equipment. Again, a reminder that we selected Motorola in 2011 on purpose, and with purpose, knowing that it was going to be a $30 million project. We know what the infrastructure is. We know how the equipment works. In the last several years, we have had opportunities to have other radios from different vendors to given to us for free on grants, trial basis, different things, and we can all unequivocally say that nothing works like these radios that we have here today, and it's just something we can't jeopardize. Next. And one other thing, if you ask me, they will tell you that they're pushing their newest and greatest radio. What we are replacing or what we are purchasing is not the newest and greatest. It is a replacement for what we have now. It is the existing like for like similar product. The newest and greatest radio is much more like a smartphone, and it costs $1,000 more per radio, and it comes with a monthly service fee like your cell phone. So $75 a month per device for the life of the device. That's $9,000 extra. So you're essentially doubling the price of the radio to pay for it over the 10 years. We didn't think that was viable. We didn't think that was a prudent solution, so we immediately discarded it. For as many times as Motorola has tried to talk to us about it, we absolutely say that's not what Winnebago County needs right now, and that's not what we want to do. Perhaps in 10 years, if the technology is different, we might consider it when these are up for replacement again. Neither of us will be here, so maybe I don't know if we will be here in 10 years, but we won't be. So if that's something that the county wants to look at again, to double the price, certainly we can definitely talk about that, but that is not what we want to do now. The proprietary features on how these radios work is very labor intensive, and we know exactly how they work, and we know what we're buying, and we need to buy what we're buying. So just the last one, please. So again, just a quick recap that this has gone up $350,000 in the last year, and we're hopeful that if we can get this moved forward quickly, be it ARPA funds or CRP bonding, that's going to be up to the finance department, the administration department to decide what's the best recommendation for that, and what you guys decide how you'd like to fund it. That's perfectly within your purview. We just know that we know that there's a reset, and we're not sure how long that reset's going to take, and we'd like to see this move forward a little sooner than waiting for that. So I think that's it. The last one is just, if you have any questions about anything, so.
Supervisor Powers.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Captain Winnebago. Just one quick question. I hope this is quick. The millions of dollars worth of equipment and electronics that you have in the basement, how secure is that from flooding or water damage? Because you say it's in the basement, doesn't seem like the best place to store stuff. Thank you.
So Basement's probably bad, where it's on the first floor of our building. We've been in that building for 20 years. I've never seen water damage ever in that building. We've had some significant flooding in Oshkosh in the last 20 years, so.
Supervisor Hanson.
Thank you, Captain. Not really a question, just thank you for the presentation. Thank you very much for your attention to detail on the research.
Thank you.
Supervisor Gabbard.
Quick questions. Great presentation. You always do a good job. Can we get a copy of that? Because I don't have a copy of that. Sure. And lifetime of the new radios. Again, the vendor will tell you 7 years, but we would plan for 10. And maintenance, is that over and above the 2.4? Is, and we have a current maintenance agreement with our current ones, these right here. We have a maintenance agreement with them right now. It's about $25,000 a year for all the county radios. It fluctuates year to year because we have to touch them with the vendor every other year, so we try to flatten it out over 2 years. In 2-year contract increments, and it averages about $25,000 a year. So the downside of this is not longevity, but it's every 7 years. I'm sorry. You replace radios every 7 years? Well, we go for 10, right? So these are 10. These are 10. This is a 10-year. We installed these in 2012 and 13. Okay. So we're at 10 years. The prior system was 10 years prior to that, and before that, I think was 10 years prior to that. We've been pretty successful with 10-year increments, and Motorola knows radios. That's what their business. And the departments who get the radios, you mentioned facilities and health. Do they have them right now? Yes. Okay. Yeah. So same amounts? Slight number changes. Okay. Yeah, and the highway department actually, they have several portables like this right now and fewer mobiles installed in their vehicles, and they're basically flip-flopping their numbers. They want more installed in their vehicles and less handheld. So plow operators and the tow truck drivers don't have as much to fiddle with. It's a lot more stationary for them. Makes sense. Thank you very much.
Supervisor Twine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Captain. So these units are at 6,500 per, right?
It varies on the style of radio, but yes.
Yeah, okay. And significantly less 10 years ago, obviously that 4,000 units, so you got that 7.6% per year inflation rate on the cost of these units. And inflation, in the last couple of years, of course, has been high, but before that, it wasn't so high. So the justification there on the annual increase in cost, can you make it?
Can I make a justification? The best I can say is that the last year when the economy has probably flabbergasted everybody in this room.
So it's hard to get a real handle on what the cost is going to be by the time this is done, and that's what you're struggling with on it.
That's true. I have no idea how much more the cost is going to go up, but I know historically there wasn't a huge price jump.
Okay.
The price jump occurred in the last year. The last 4 or 5 years, it was pretty flat.
And these Motorola units, obviously it's a well-known company. Are they made in the United States?
I am sorry, I don't know that.
I don't know. Okay, they have smart features that are secure.
These radios that we are buying do not have smart features.
Okay.
Correct. Those are the ones that cost about double that we're not buying.
And the old units you said could be salvaged.
Pieces.
What would the salvage value be?
So it depends on how many we sell and of what type. If there's a buyer for them, they estimate, I gave them rough numbers on what we would be selling. They're estimating it's about $70,000 total for 400 radios.
So you probably want to sell them all at once, but you can't maybe auction them to the general public, I would imagine.
That's correct, we can't, because they're transmitting capabilities, so we have to be very clear and specific on where to go.
Right, okay.
We have roughly 1.7 million transmission a year on these in the county, so we're definitely serious about our system.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Hims.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the presentation, and thank you for keeping it brief. I just have one question. I'm the last person who was ever going to sit here and suggest spending more money. Was the thought ever given to possibly getting one for the sheriff and say you of the new upgraded model to see how that would work over the next 10 years? So that way, if the prices do come down, you would have a working knowledge of what those would be.
Oh, actually, we had not considered that, but I would consider it as we got closer to repurchasing them. So I think the system is different. They're based on a cellular style of the technology. I want to give it a fair assessment.
Exactly, and that, it would be an opportunity possibly to not spend all the money on something you're unsure of. If there was something you could do the same, maybe have one or two possibly, so that way you have a grasp of it. So 10 years down the road, you would know which way you're going forward, and maybe, like you said, the prices come way down on it.
I'd be happy to add an extra high dollar radio to this, absolutely.
And like I said, I'm the last person who's gonna sit here and
I
take.
turned an 07 until about 2 weeks ago, so I'm not spending your money, my money.
Thank you.
Sure. Supervisor Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Captain. If you appreciate that you went through it very quickly, but I'd like it if you could just back up somewhere there. I don't know, was it in the tennis system or something that Motorola quoted you $1.5 million, and you got it done for $330,000.
Yes.
That doesn't give me a real warm fuzzy feeling from Motorola.
Yeah, so that's about the labor, and that's a really solid point. So Motorola, there's certain pieces of this that are within nationwide contracting. The radio, the cost of the radios themselves aren't going to change. It's a nationwide contract, but the labor is something that Motorola would charge us more for, because we have a solid relationship with our vendor locally. They will give us a different flat fee, and we know that we will save money with them instead of taking the easy route and going with Motorola and signing one big contract with them. That would be certainly easier for us to do. We're not going to. We're going to take the cost-effective pieces that we know we can get because we have a relationship with our local vendors.
Thank you.
Sure. Supervisor Sestero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the presentation, Captain.
Thank you.
I was just interested in that 70,000 for the 400 radios or 40 radios. 400. You had mentioned the salvage.
Oh yes. Yep.
For 400.
Yeah, about 400. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and the firefighters who would not be going into fires and throughout the municipalities, I'm thinking of those. I'm thinking of EMTs who I've heard a lot of times would just use their own personal phones, the volunteer, and then township road crews. I mean, is that something that could be looked at a little closer?
Sure, it could be. The fire departments that are in Winnebago County, their EMTs, they're all together. Right, so that would be up to those fire chiefs if they wanted to buy 10-year products. I mean, absolutely, we could talk about that with some of them. I know that some of them are very invested on what their towns are going to do, and they have a very good plan or at least discussion points on what they want. I don't know if they want to invest in 10-year-old technology, but I think I don't want to speak for all of them, but I really feel like most of them want the replacement as well. They know for 10 years that their radios were going to expire too.
Yeah, I guess I would. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that there are within Winnebago County, the City of Oshkosh Fire Department, the City of Oshkosh Police Department, Menasha Fire, Neenah Police Department, Menasha Police Department, and Alma Police Department have all already replaced theirs. They've all done it in the last year or so.
Okay.
So really the only local municipalities in Winnebago County that are left are really the township fire departments, and they are still trying to figure out what they are going to do later.
Yeah, and I guess I knew that already. Yeah. I apologize. Maybe I could talk with you about that later too.
Okay.
About maybe, yeah. Thank you so much for the presentation. Yeah, thank you.
Supervisor Bender.
I guess my concern is I'm more than happy to supply the radios to the sheriff's department every 10 years, but I can't believe I worked at the highway department. All I ever used that radio for was simple communication, and probably 75% I used my cell phone to call my supervisor because I didn't want the long conversation over the radio where the comm center records everything, and we're talking about problems we're having. We're not, So it's like we use the cell phone a lot. I would just think that if we got new radios for the sheriff's department every 7 years and filter those into for the highway department, the airport, the parks, and the facilities, they're not life and death situations. If my radio didn't work at the highway department, a lot of times the battery went dead. It didn't work. I didn't hear from my wife, or, you know, there was no big deal. I had a cell phone. I missed
Yeah.
all.
That's a great point you make about the batteries. So the ones that they actually want at the highway department are the ones that are installed permanently in the vehicles where there's no batteries. They're attached to the vehicles. And I talked to Bob Damon at the highway department, and he explained that the ones that would go into the plows and the trucks are the ones that he wants, because his guys aren't going to be fiddling around with this piece of equipment, just like a cell phone. That's the last thing he wants, are plow operators on a cell phone driving by the road, right? So he said, I really want to switch to those mobile that are mounted, where the guys know they can grab the microphone that's sitting there like a trucker CB. They know exactly where that is, and that's what he wants for his, and that's why we switched out the order a little bit.
You know, before we got these, we always replaced the radios and replaced the equipment.
Yeah.
You know, so we never replaced, you know, if we had 100 pieces of equipment, we would replace 100 radios.
Right, it was so different then.
A new radio with it. But now it's like, we're gonna spend almost $260,000 a year. You know, that's what it costs for the 420 radios. And for you, it could be a life and death situation. For that truck driver or that guy at the airport, it's not a life and death situation. You know, if his radio isn't working, he just gets his cell phone out, pulls over the side of the road and makes a phone call. You know, it's not, I will support the radios for the sheriff's department, but I don't believe that I can support the radios for the other four entities. I think it's way too much money for the taxpayers, and we could filter those radios in that you're gonna be getting rid of. As their radios go bad, they can just take one of the radios from the sheriff's department and use that. You can take the feature off. I know you have a scrambled channel, but if you lose that radio, you can basically shut that radio down right from the town center. Because, you know, so those radios are usable in the highway and the facilities. And we could get new radios every 7 years and 50 years into the other 4 departments. So you'd get radios 3 years sooner. And the other department, the radios would be just fine. I mean, all these fire departments aren't going to buy new radios. They don't have, you know, $100,000 or, you know, they can't even buy a fire truck without raising their taxes. And let alone getting the money to buy the radio. So I just think that the 420 radios, I couldn't support it. I could support radios for the sheriff's department.
What you had mentioned though about replacing the radio with a piece of equipment, that's prior to narrow banding. It's prior to a lot of things that have changed since you've worked for the highway department. So please understand that technology has changed and the rules by FCC have changed. So it's not the same.
If you get a new radio and you get a new truck, what changes? Basically, if the highway department got 25 radio equipment trucks, and as they got new trucks, they put a radio in, that would change.
Well, if you're changing the truck every 10 years, that would work, that math works.
Well, most of the trucks last, you know, the dump trucks last more than 10 years.
What I'm saying is with the new technology, that doesn't work. That was prior to narrow banding the radios and the new FCC regulations that occurred in 2013, where we had to do what we had to do with the new robust system that was purchased. So things have changed, is what I'm trying to say. Is you can't use the analogy from back when you worked, because it's not the same.
I used those radios for 2 years.
Okay, yeah. I understand that, but again, things have changed.
And those same radios are still on the trucks today.
Right.
And they still work until they basically fail, which could be a day, it could be 10 years.
You're exactly right, but, and again, that's up to the department head to decide, and that's what we went to them and said, what do you need?
It's up to them to decide, but it's up to us to fund it.
You're exactly right. So if you decide that you're not going to fund the other departments, that's your decision to make.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, having no other ones, we thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
And then we'll be going to resolution number 175-022-023. Okay, we'll do the zoning. I'm sorry, we'll do the zoning first. I apologize. First one is report number 1, when he gave me in Town of Clayton, Supervisor Miller. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I recommend the adoption of
The report number 2, it's for the number 1, sorry, I'm on the wrong. Yep. For the planning and zoning of the Winnebago Incorporated. It's on East Center Road. And it's tax parcel 006 1246 006 1245 006 1244 and 006 1243.
And we've got a second by Flom already. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Mandatory ordinance number 02-001-23, rezoning from R2 to R1, tax parcel numbers 006-1243, 006-1244, 006-1245, and 006-1246. Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I recommend the approval of this resolution for those tax parcels mentioned.
And we have a second by Flom. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Carried. Report number 2, Winnebago County General Code, Chapter 24, Whitman Regional Airport Zoning. Supervisor Hintz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I recommend acceptance of report number 002.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Mandatory ordinance number 02-002-23. Repeal and recreate Chapter 24 Whitman Regional Airport Ordinance. Supervisor Hintz.
Motion to approve mandatory ordinance number 02/002/23.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Carried. Mandatory ordinance number 02-003-23, Town of Clayton, on behalf of Paul and Joel Moran, rezone tax parcel numbers 006-0652 and 03-01 and 006-0652, 03-02 from A2 to R2. Supervisor Youngquist.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of the mandatory ordinance number 02/003/23.
And that is seconded by Supervisor Fari. Any discussion? Not seeing any discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Carried. Keep it up. Okay. Mandatory ordinance number 004-23, Town of Clayton, on behalf of Brett Breckland, rezone tax parcel 006-08-16, 01-03, and 006-08-16-01-02 from A2 to R1. Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I recommend approval of this resolution.
And seconded by Flom. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those say nay. Carried. Mandatory ordinance number 02-005-23, Town of Clayton, on behalf of Kevin and Jenna Fisher, rezone tax parcel number 006-02-79-01 from A2 to R1. Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I recommend approval of this resolution.
Seconded by Supervisor Harrison. Or Hanson, I'm sorry. Not seeing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Next is mandatory ordinance 02-006-23, Town of Clayton, on behalf of the Town of Clayton, rezone tax parcel 006-0328-03 from A2 to I1. Supervisor Youngquist.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of mandatory ordinance number
006-23.
Seconded by Supervisor Powers. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Mandatory ordinance number 02-007-23, Town of Clayton, on behalf of the Town of Clayton, rezone tax parcel number 006-0340-02-01 from A2 to I1. Supervisor Youngquist.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of mandatory ordinance number 02/007/23.
Seconded by Supervisor Powers. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Mandatory ordinance number 02-008-23, Town of Clayton, on behalf of Cody Rubble, rezone tax parcel number 006-0034-01 from R1 to R2. Supervisor Youngquist.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval for mandatory ordinance number 02/008/23.
Before we vote on this, I've got a call on Chairman of the Planning and Zoning Supervisor Hintz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a matter of housekeeping, we need to change this resolution so it reads, the property be changed from the classification of R1 and R2. And then at the end of it, to the zone district of R1. They flip-flopped in there. If you actually look at the petition that's in here on the second to last page, they're requesting to remove the R2 zoning completely from this property.
Just go to R1 then.
Just to R1.
Okay. Supervisor Youngquist, you still make that motion?
Yes.
Seconded by Supervisor Powers.
Yes.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Carried. Now, if we ever have consent agendas, that's something to take care of right there, possibly. But they can be pulled out. Okay, next is resolution ordinance. Our first one will be 175. And that is because I thought Judge Jorgensen was still going to be here and he's in charge of the bailiffs, but he had to leave. Adding the bailiff position to the Winnebago County unclassified position pay schedule, resolution 175-022-023, Supervisor Stafford. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the approval of resolution 175-022-023.
Seconded by Supervisor Hanson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Nay. Carried. Now we'll go to I-194. We're jumping around here, but no, we're going to 194 now. Resolution number 194-022-023, approval of capital improvement projects for 2023 to be funded with transfers from the undesignated general fund balance, which will either reduce the undesignated general fund balance or will be reimbursed by a substantial bond issue. Supervisor Cox. Supervisor Cox. It's 194, it's the last one. I move for resolution, approval of the capital improvement projects for 2023 to be funded with transfers from the assigned general fund balance, which will either reducing the assigned general fund balance, or will be reimbursed by a subsequent bond issue. Don't hear any seconds, but I got a lot of lights on. Vice Chairman Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Was there a
There was
second?
no second. Did we hear a second?
Was there a second?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, there it is. Yep, I'm sorry.
Okay, so the motion's on the
I
floor.
didn't see your light. I'm sorry.
The motion's on the floor.
motion is on the floor.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move for division of the question. This is an incidental motion. Do I have a second?
Seconds. We do have a second.
Okay.
So there's a motion on the floor for the division of it.
Yes.
That's Stafford. Okay. So that has to be voted on, right, Mary Ann?
Yes, it does. It is a non-ranking motion as opposed to a motion to amend. But a division of the question does require a second. And no debate can be amended and the vote requires the majority.
Jordy. I might have the floor after it's been decided, please.
Okay. On the motion, Supervisor Hanson?
There's no debate, sir.
We can't debate it. We can't debate it, so.
Patient, this is a new thing for me. Please tell me what this is doing.
In other words, what they've asked to, instead of voting on them all at once, go back and vote on each one separately. Oh, I'm sorry. No. Okay. It's whichever one he wants to pull out. So if he wants to pull one of them instead of doing all of them at once. The capital projects here that we presented. This big book of all of them. All the capital projects. So. Supervisor Powers, do you have anything not for debate?
Not for debate, no, it's not for debate. As this was read out loud, it said, Supervisor Cox said, transfers from the assigned general fund and reduce the assigned general fund. And the statement actually reads, transfers from the unassigned general fund and reduce the unassigned general fund. So which way are we voting on this?
So the approval of capital improvement projects for 2023 to be funded with transfers to the unassigned general fund balance, which will either reduce the unassigned general fund balance or will be reimbursed by a subsequent bond issue.
Thank you.
Mary Beth, question? Supervisor Gabbard, I'm sorry.
So here's a question, and I don't know if it's for Chuck or for you or for corporate counsel. So with that motion being on the floor, is it an individual item that can be pulled? Or is it, I'm cloudy on where to go with this. Can it be just one item pulled? Or is it involving voting on each individual item on this resolution?
No, one item could be pulled.
Just one?
Correct. Now, as I was telling Chairman Fine, the division of the question is a non-ranking motion, as opposed to, let's say, someone wanted to do a motion to amend, to delete something, one of the projects. That, as you know, is a subsidiary motion, but it is this divide the question is an incidental motion. It's non-ranking. But in response to your question, it can be, one item can be removed from the group.
And then we move on.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And then as long as you're up there, then somebody else could do the same thing, correct? Say he pulls one out, but then somebody else wants something else pulled out, they can do the same thing, right?
That's correct.
Supervisor Tafari, it's back to you.
Before I announce what I'd like to do, I need this approved on the floor.
Okay.
Do I vote on it first, please?
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Vice Chairman Fire.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The purpose of this was to follow a parliamentary procedure, Robert's Rule of Orders. At this time, I'd like to refer to Supervisor Bender for the disposition of what he is going to bring forward specific to UW Fox.
So Supervisor, you called for it, but Supervisor Bender is going to
He's
tell about it.
actually going to detail what he needs to pull.
Okay, then. Okay, that's why I thought it was going to be two separate ones, but okay. Because I didn't turn you on yet, I was still thinking about it. I gotta get to this really fast. Can you take that off? Just- How's that?
I got it. I'd like to make an amendment to resolution 194-02-2023 pertaining to the approval of the capital improvement projects for 2023 by removing lines 49 and 50 from the resolution, reducing the amount in line 23 to $8,110,382, reducing the line 24 to $9,587,138, reducing the amount of line 63 to $9,587,138, and $1,476,756 respectively, and reducing the amount of line 64 to $8,110,382.
Motion made and seconded.
We talked about the cafeteria earlier when the county back was up there, and we feel that we like more time to basically take it over and bring back feasibility study into the county. A lot of matters here like that. We'd like to get the engineering and the design work done before we get started with it.
Supervisor Swan. Supervisor Swan was first. You had your light on?
I just posted for the second.
Supervisor Hintz.
Mr. Bender, when you were going through that, you said line 63 and 64. Mine, line 63 is empty.
Now, mine is too, this is what we're in.
So I return, is that supposed to be 64 and 65 on what we have done? I just want to clear, it's a point of clarification.
I see that too,
Rob, based on your conversations with me and what you wanted, you're correct. I made a mistake. It's line 64, not line 63. And so it would be reducing the amounts in line 64 to $9,587,138 and $1,476,756 respectively, and reducing the amount in line 65 to $8,110,382. So the amounts are correct, but the line should be 64 and 65, not 63 and 64.
Supervisor Hanson.
I think I may retract. I just want to clarify, we are pulling line 49 and 50. So it is only the food service project of UW that's being pulled. Is that correct? Okay.
Supervisor Powers.
That was my question to food service. Thank you.
Okay, not seeing any other lights. We'll have to vote on the amendment first. Correct, Mary Ann, or can we take them all at once? We have to vote on the amendment, right? And how is that a majority? Okay. We better do it, vote on your machines, just to make sure. All those in favor of the amendment, push A. If you're against it, push nay. And that passed. Okay, with taking that out, unless someone else has anything, would be Supervisor Gabbard.
So now we're back to the resolution, was that out, right?
Correct.
Okay, so now I have a money question for Mike. What is the amount or close to the amount that we have today in the, it says assigned or designated general fund balance that we have right now?
A little over $27 million.
Okay, and that being said, if we took all of these out of the general unassigned funds, or whatever you want to call them, the name changes, and took it out, we'd be down roughly 8 million something, right? So then we would be at 19 million.
Roughly.
Okay, so the roughly becomes important to me because I believe our bonding agent said we should be in that 12 to 14 million, is that correct? To get bond rating? How low can we go before, if we take it up, if we took all these projects that have now before us, and we took it out of undesignated funds of 27 million, and that drops to 19 million, are we at any point getting close to a number where it affects our bond rating when we go to bond?
Well, we can't say for sure what's going to affect our bond rating because they won't tell us ahead of time. But our policy adopted by the board about the undesignated fund balance requires it to be in a range of 16 to 20% of ongoing expenditures, annual expenditures. So I have to try to do a little bit of math in my head. So I recall from that analysis, and I can do a more detailed one, but it would take me a little while, that the 20%, the upper end of that range, our target range, puts us at something like 32 million. So already below that. I'm pretty sure if we do as you suggest and just take the 8 million out right now, it would put us theoretically below the 16%. Not completely sure how much. I could do a little math and figure that out. But we would make that decision under this resolution at the present time. In other words, this resolution does not commit the county to borrowing the money. What we do is after we have, so the other factor is there may be something else subtracted from or added to the unassigned general fund balance once we look at the 2022 financial performance and see if departments underspent, overspent, how that all comes out in the wash. So there'll probably be something put back in, but looking at the numbers, it may not be. I'm not really expecting as big a number as we've had in other recent years. So I'd like to do that analysis more carefully before we decide, and that's why we write it the way we do. We then wait until our audited financial statements are complete, do that analysis according to the fund balance policy, and then we may borrow the 8 million, we may not borrow the 8 million. You know, so this last year we only borrowed 6 million, before that we only borrowed 4 million, and so forth. We'll certainly do that, but there will be 2 more resolutions needed from the board before we actually borrow any money.
So I trust your math on this because I know you've been down this road before. So we are firmly open to either undesignated fund balance or bonding. That's all I need to know, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, but I am watching that number because I know that that does affect our bond eventually. Okay, good, thank you.
Supervisor Deputy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will be voting against this one simply because I think that it is time for to detach themselves from the UW Fox campus system. Simply because I would rather have them be granted more autonomy in regards to their projects, and that they're able to fund their own specific projects without waiting on county funds and waiting on county approval. And there's other University of Wisconsin colleges and universities out there that do not depend so heavily on county funding. They do really well. So because of that, I would be voting.
Okay, not seeing any other lights. We'll be voting then on resolution number 1940222-023 with that money taken out for the kitchen part of it. So unless there's anything else, if you're in favor of doing that, the rest of that, vote A. If you're not, vote nay. That passes 31-3-1. All right. So we're back to the beginning here now. The next is resolution number 3504-2022. Create an ad hoc structure review committee. It was called committee and it was changed to task force to review committee structure in Winnebago County, beginning with the 2024 term. Supervisor Stafford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve resolution 35-042022.
Seconded by Flynn. Supervisor Stella.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So regarding this resolution, I just want to remind the body that this is not impacting us this term. We're to look, it's to help us look forward, not where we're at today. I support this and I'm behind this because I feel like just looking at the best way to get our work done, this is not asking you to approve. It's just asking you to look at, to support that we can look at this issue and try to identify what makes the most sense for us. Thank you.
Supervisor Friend.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just kind of want to chat quick about how this got back here from Supervisor Salstella's resolution last year. This started out as her resolution, and then it went over to the Judiciary Committee. It was referred. And then from there, we kind of sat on it for a little bit, and then we had one presentation by the Wisconsin Counties Association. Jay Curtis from Metellus Law came up here and gave us a presentation on committee right sizing. And then recently we decided to move into action with this. The goal was to get some form of proposal done before the end of this term, preferably before budget of this term, of this year. And given that the JPS committee has a lot on its plate already, we decided to branch off into a different direction with this ad hoc task force. So I've been talking with other counties. Tomorrow I'll be talking with Fond du Lac County Board Chairman Stephen Abel about his committee structure and how he runs his county board, and multiple other counties in our region as well. And kind of looking at what the best model is for ourselves. And for this task force, if it's passed tonight, I would encourage as much public input as possible, as much input from this body as possible. There are a lot of different expertise skill boxes here with people who are on different committees and what they bring to the table. So I would encourage this to be voted on tonight. We can get started and roll up our sleeves. And I want to thank everybody who worked on this to get this here. So thank you.
Vice Chairman Farley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kind of a point of determination here. When we're elected, we set the rules for this body for this term. I'm not sure it's proper to suggest, as the resolution clearly states, that this would be a beginning in the 2024 term. You could have all new supervisors and certainly a whole new judicial committee. So I think it would be more proper if you did a task force to make a recommendation to this body during this term, perhaps. But as that stated, I can't support that. I don't believe that's correct, sir. Thank you.
Supervisor Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to support this, and I echo what Supervisor Flom said, but I also take into account what Supervisor Farley said, because for me, I will always invite discussion and encourage discussion, because that means that there can be a change, there should be a change, or it gets left alone. And I think that's an important discussion to have.
Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Flynn kind of answered my question. I'm open to this, but, and what I don't get when this task force would report back to us. So that's a little bit too open. I mean, he suggested, Supervisor Flynn, that would come back for the budget time, but it's not stated that. I wish there was a stated that would come back, I don't know, December 2023 or something, so that, you know, people could talk about this and really be part about the campaign next year when people are for this office. So I guess that's what I'm looking for. Was there any decision or any idea about putting when this would be definitely coming back to the board? That's my question.
The only thing I can ask is that they want to get it started. From what I understand, I'm looking at Chairman Carter.
I get that, Mr. Chairman, but I have no problem looking at it. I mean, I suggested a long time ago about doing things different. But, you know, and Mr. kind of suggested this, well, if he wants to bring back maybe by budget time. Well, then why don't we put a date December of 2024 or November of 2020, I'm sorry, 2023. But I don't get that. I mean, I'd be open to that. I don't want to suggest that because I probably get shot down, but I wish that they have a date set aside, definitely set, that that's what we report. That gives them a timetable and we start. I'm all for that, but I don't get when it's going to come to end, and that's what I'd like to see.
Supervisor Gabbard.
2 points. You are going to appoint the people to the task force?
This task force, I will, yes.
Okay. And then another point is, and I think it was mentioned already tonight, don't forget about the people that have been on the board for a while, because we're sitting here thinking, we might have some good ideas about this too. So if I don't do it on the public side, I hope to be on this task force. I think we need to clean house. Having served on some committees and seeing how some committees operate, I think we could clean house a little bit. I don't think we need a drastic change, but we should step forward. All this task force is going to do is review all this and present something. Nobody's, the task force isn't going to say this shall be done and this shall be done. So go in with an open mind and come up with some good ideas. Thank you.
I would just like to add to that, there's only going to be 5 on this. So if you don't get put on there, the meetings are always open. So make sure and come. I don't know, I imagine they'll be on Zoom. So make sure, because there'll only be 5 on there. Supervisor Challenger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You created a nice segue for me. My first question is, as a task force,
Does this meetings, this group's deliberations need to be recorded and presented on Zoom, cataloged on Zoom under our rules?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. My next question is about the scope of this. Is this task force limited to looking at committees, or is the intention to also look at committees, commissions, and boards?
Well, the commissions are appointed by the county executive. So I don't know if they're going to do that or not. So I don't know if they have any thought on it or
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We actually had a fair amount of conversation about that specific thing at committee. And this is focused on committees. So this wouldn't include boards. Many boards are required to have. And then as Chair Egan had mentioned, the commissions the scope because of how they're appointed as well. So this would solely be, at least this effort, would be solely looking at committees issued by this board.
Can you say a little bit more about that conversation? Why commissions were excluded? I mean, I understand that they're not what this board or sort of the origination of them, and obviously some are statutorily required in certain ways, but to sort of say we're going to take part of the structure and review it and leave this other part undone. And I guess I'm specifically asking because in line 8 it references a couple of boards, and generally the flow of this conversation has often been mixed with both the commissions, committees, and boards.
Thank you. Yes, so there's a few ways I would answer that. The first is, as we looked at this resolution that came to our committee, this didn't originate from us, we first had to divorce the two, right? So the whereas is the background. That's really all that is. The resolution's the actual meat. And so when we first had this conversation, we had to wrestle with what is the scope here. And we elected to go with just the committees because that is what the resolution said. Then we had a conversation on, okay, do we add it? And that's when we got into, there are a lot of tentacles, if you will, when you start including some of these other initiatives, and felt like it might be too much for a small task force of 5 people to really do. And the bigger, more broad opportunity for efficiency is within the committees themselves and how we do that work. And we have the most control over that since those are managed by this assembly. So that's why we ended up there. Now, on a side note, I think there is opportunity there. There is, absolutely. Where opportunities come up, as this is talked about, I'm sure will be, and I'm sure that will be documented. But as was stated, these are all recommendations for this board. So, that could be a recommendation for something down the road as well, for sure. So I would say that if a good idea comes up as a result of this discussion that's beyond the scope of committee, I would encourage that task force to document that and bring that forward either as an aside or maybe a separate initiative that this board would consider in the future.
Corporation content?
Just to clarify, and I'm sure you know the Supervisor Spellinger, committees are under the domain of Chairman Egan. Commissions and boards are under the domain of County Executive Dana. And you'll note that when Supervisor Sestera initially brought this, she had referenced the word committee. And when the Judiciary Committee decided it wanted to change that word committee and replace it with task force. But given the fact that, again, it was committee, that is why Chairman Egan would have the power to appoint who would be on that committee.
Since it was brought up, may I just clarify on task force? So the reason why the committee decided to change it to task force, number one, it was a little confusing, having a committee established to look at committees, but also to focus on this is a very short-term effort. And sometimes when we establish committees, they kind of live on, right? And this was really about focusing on what is the best solution going forward for this county in terms of how we can serve each other as well as those that we represent. So that's why we went with task force, to really reinforce the true nature of this effort.
And again, if you actually look at the mission of the Judiciary Committee, it specifically says review policy issues and advise and recommend appropriate policy goals. And that is exactly what the Judiciary Committee is doing. You referenced, or someone referenced 2024. Well, when there is a new board, the new board could say, you know what, we don't like this. But right now, Judiciary is honoring its goals in terms of trying to be true to the rules.
Thank you. I think that's all really helpful. I think it's very interesting to see, you know, a total review. I'll certainly support this. I'll also suggest that on line 19, we change the word committee then to task force. So I can make a motion if we need to, but I hope maybe we can just do that as a
Friendly amendment, I would think.
thank you.
Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree it is reasonable to review the Winnebago County Committee structure. However, from 17 years of service on this Winnebago County Board, I know that any tinkering with the committees needs to be prefaced with a downsizing of the county board. However, inasmuch as I have sounded out the Judiciary Committee and no other members showed interest in downsizing the board, and I have sounded out the county board in April of 2022, and few supervisors were interested, I'll accept the will of the majority. The last time committee structure, board structure was looked at was 2007 with the Personnel Function Review Committee. In 2002, a task force. In 1991, a community task force. And in 1987, a contractor consultant. So this is something we do. We get an itch every so often, and I guess it's time to scratch.
Supervisor Stafford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple comments, since I've actually had a chance to speak already. I just would like to mimic that. I would encourage involvement from everyone, for sure, regardless of who is on this committee, on this task force. I would absolutely encourage both those who have been here for years and have that experience, as well as those who are brand new. I think that the more conversation we can have, the better we're going to be. So I would absolutely encourage that. Please do that. And I'll try to say this really delicately. I would plead for those who have been on the board for many years to come with an open mind on that, and not be stuck in how we've done things. And then I would also ask those who are new to appreciate history and understand that we've done things a certain way because of a good reason, and we should ask what that reason is. If the reason is that, well, that's just how we've done things, that's not a good reason. But there might be really good reasons. And I think if we can come to the table with that kind of thinking, we're going to have some fantastic recommendations to bring forward. So, thank you.
Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think 2 points, and I'm a little bit worried about this. If speaking at a cake and punch farewell last week with Corp Council and the chairman, I said, well, like, what committees would you think about, are thinking about getting together? And they said, well, for instance, and this, so again, this is not cut in stone, this is just like, you know, conversation over cake. For instance, Parks and Rec going to combining with UW Education Extension Agriculture, which have two very distinct foci. Parks and Rec is all about those who are, I think they mentioned Parks and Land and Water, that's what it was, Land and Water and Parks. Land and Water is dealing with fishermen, fisheries, dairy farms, forestry, farming, whereas Parks is looking at recreation, boating, picnicking, camping, fishing, which is different from fisheries. And I don't see how the two have the same focus at all. And my second question about this would be, if you were, and also most of our committees, not all, most of our committees are representing departments that we already have. So if you combine committees, would you then be also kind of combine departments? And if you do combined Land and Water Committee and the Parks and Recreation Committee, would it then becomes either a board or a commission? Are we trying to get rid of committees and make everything boards and commissions? Is this a backdoor way of turning committees into commissions and boards? I think those are my two questions.
Supervisor Hims.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say, and I know because I've discussed with a lot of the people who've been involved with this about something like this since I was appointed. And I think that the opportunity to especially pick the brains of other counties and see what they've done and see how things have worked for them, see how things haven't worked for them. I mean, we might go into this because I know, and I'm just throwing this out there because I know this has been talked about by people not involved with this and people involved with this, say combining highway and the airport. Well, that might not work in Winnebago County because we have a different kind of an airport than other counties do. But then again, it might, we might find out that, combining those worked great in 7 surrounding counties. We don't know. And that's the thing, we don't know. This committee, I think, is going to give us those kind of answers, give us that kind of information so we can move forward and say what's best for Winnebago County. Even if it works for another county, it might not work for us. And I think those discussions will be very vigorous in these meetings, especially if we all participate, for those of us who aren't on that task force. Thank you.
All those in favor on resolution number 3504, 2022, to create an ad hoc structure review task force to review committee structure in Winnebago County with the 24th term, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Nay. We'll vote, but I'm quite sure the ayes have it. So vote on your machines. That passed 25-7-3. Resolution number 154-12-2022 to name the County Administration Building the David Albert Administration Building. Supervisor Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of resolution number 154-12-2022.
Seconded by Norton. Seeing any discussion? No. Oops. Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. From 2006 to 2018, I served under the paternal leadership of David Albert as chairman of the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors. He got the job done with his folksy humor and appreciating all the hard work his Board of Supervisors did. He not only worked, but was very active in Winnebago County Association, Wisconsin County Association business, both on the insurance company board and the board of directors of the WCA. His most tangible contribution was the initiative to go to the iPad computers, which have become standard operating procedure for this county board of supervisors. For this and all the other reasons I've spelled out in the resolution, I ask for your approval to commemorate good service by naming the administration building the David Albrecht Administration Building.
Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to be all respect to Supervisor Albrecht. I have no problem naming something after him. For our service that Mr. Supervisor Eisen said. I guess what I'm throwing out here, suggestion is the administration building the most appropriate building? I would suggest to someone who's supporting me, I would suggest maybe the highway building. As far as I've been on the county board, he's been on the county board with me, I think he's been a member of the highway committee. I've been chairman for many years. I think the most appropriate building to be named after David Albrecht, Supervisor David Albrecht, would be the highway building, because that's one of the two things I think I am most associated with him being with. So I probably would support his ideas, but I think the more appropriate thing would be the highway building, especially since it seems like we may be getting a renewal or renewal highway building in the near future. That's my thoughts on the subject.
See a second. Supervisor Hanson.
I did not have the pleasure of working with or really knowing Supervisor Albrecht, but I want to thank Supervisor Eisen for putting this forward. I think that's admirable.
Supervisor Gabbard.
I know this is picky, but how about a middle initial? If you're gonna name it after somebody as good as David Albrecht, why not the middle initial? That's all proper. Any objections to that?
Don't think so. Vice Chairman Fary.
Let me thank Mr. Norton for bringing up that perhaps a very plausible option here. Mr. Albrecht, if I might ask you the question, if you had a choice between the two buildings, which would you prefer? Okay. So leave it as is. Thank you.
So the motion 154/2022 to name the county administration building the David W. We're going to put Albrecht Administration Building. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Congratulations.
It's a fact that was a great privilege and honor to have that.
Resolution number 176/2223, commendation for Tim Lorne, Supervisor Cox. Let me dig it out. Hold on. I'd like to make a motion for resolution 17602
2023, accommodation for Tim Warren.
Seconded, motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those who nay, carried. Resolution number 177-022-023, commendation for Robert Messerschmidt. Supervisor Cox.
I'd like to make the motion to accept resolution 177-02-2023, accommodation for Robert Messerschmidt.
Seconded by Supervisor Hanson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those say nay, carried. Resolution number 178-022-023, commendation for Barbara Efforts. How was it, Louis? Doherty. Supervisor Cox.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the resolution 178-02-2023, accommodation for Barbara Eversitz Doherty.
Motion was made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those say nay, carried. Resolution number 179-022-023, commendation for Teresa Paulus. Supervisor Cox.
I would like to make a motion to accept the resolution 179-02-2023 for accommodation of Teresa Paulus.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those say nay, carried. Resolution number 180-022-023, commendation for Terry Van Dellen Roche. Supervisor Cox.
I'd like to make a motion for the resolution 180-02-2023 for accommodation of Terry Van Dellen Roche.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Resolution number 181-022-023, commendation for Carl Van der Zanden. Supervisor Cox.
I'd like to make a motion for the resolution 181-02-2023 for accommodation for Carl Van der Zanden.
Seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Resolution number 182-022-023, commendation for Kelly Hale. Supervisor Cox.
I would like to make a motion for the resolution 182-02-2023 for the accommodation for Kelly Hale.
Seconded by Supervisor Hanson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. It's a nay, carried. That's something that the consent agenda there again will do. It's right there. You just do all of them. They'll be read earlier and this here all can be taken as one, if you pass it. Ordinance number 183-022-023, amend Winnebago County General Code, Chapter 19.23, camping and overnight mooring to include the modification and to modify the fees listed within this chapter. Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move for the ordinance 183-02-2023.
Seconded by Flynn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. Resolution number 184-022-023, approve hangar lease renewal between Tracy Knock and Winnebago County. Supervisor Gabbert.
I move for approval of resolution 184-02-2023.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, carried. Resolution number 185-022-023, increase the fee to attend the Parent Education Program Partners in Parenting from $10 per parent to $20 per parent. Supervisor Stafford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the approval of resolution 185-02-2023.
Seconded by Nussbaum. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, carried. Resolution number 186-022-023, establishing a new fee schedule for mediation and custody study fees changed by family court services for setting mediation fees at the existing amount of $150 per patient, increasing custody study fees to $50 per hour, increasing the upfront retainer fee payment to a custody study to $525 per parent. Supervisor Stafford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the approval of resolution 186-02-2023.
Seconded by Supervisor Haran. Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm wondering what the current upfront retainer fee is. What's it going up? If it's proposed to go to $525 per parent, which is by my calculations for a minimum wage employee working, getting a chance to work 8 hours a day. That's 9 days of work to pay for this. What is it currently? $525 sounds steep to me. What is it currently?
I would move for the chair.
Okay.
Just quickly introduce, this is Jill Burkhardt. She's the manager for Family Court Services. So sure, sorry about that. She's the manager for Family Court Services, so she should be able to answer the questions regarding the current fees. And she is the manager. Her name?
Jill Burkhardt.
Thank you.
Yep. The current upfront fee is $400 per parent for the retainer, and we bill at the rate of $40 per hour. So this is an increase of $10 per hour. The amount of time that we spend putting into the in-person interviews, the home visits, the review of collateral sources, and the writing of the report is such that $525 equals roughly half of what a billing would be for an average custody study. I will also note that although we give the parents the retainer for the $525 up front, it does, if they can't pay that immediately, it doesn't hold up the study process. We will still commence the study. We have 90 days to complete the study. And if the parents are looking to see if they can have that fee waived, we do allow them to fill in a waiver form and apply for that. And so they can get either half of the fee knocked off, or they can qualify for a full waiver of the fee, depending on what their income is. There aren't any great past statistics from prior managers in my office, so I don't have that to be able to provide to you. I can say that a great majority of our clients do apply for fee waivers for both mediation and studies, and that they do qualify for it.
So they apply for it, and what percentage of those people are actually receiving that waiver?
Like I said, there are no statistics in my office from prior managers. I've only been in this job for a year.
I'm just concerned about custody hearings or custody studies and making it so steep that there are children left in situations that are dangerous to them, and possibly, one other parent. I'm usually thinking of a mother, because they can't come up with this study. This just seems really steep for people who are already in crisis.
Well, first of all, my office doesn't screen for safety. That is the Department of Human Services. We are a court mandate or a court-ordered service that just provides an investigation and report to the judge in a family court case. So this is not a safety issue. We don't remove children. We don't make recommendations for that. This is simply making recommendations to a judge for placement in custody when parents can't figure it out in their contested court case for a divorce or for parents who are never married. In addition, again, their services, if a court orders a custody study, they're going to get the custody study whether they pay the fee or not, whether they qualify for a reduced fee or not. That report comes out in 90 to 120 days, regardless of the fee.
And then are the parents charged for that? If
There's collection action that would take place if they are ordered for the fee. That gets done on the back end. So again, the report comes out, it is utilized in the court system. They go through the hearings, so they get the service whether they pay upfront or not. And also, I believe the clerk of court's office, who does all of the collection, would allow a payment plan before it goes into collections. And that is for anybody who doesn't qualify for the waiver, which again can reduce that fee to 1/2 of the amount that we would bill finally, or to a full waiver. And keep in mind too, this is not a common thing that happens. Custody studies are ordered in the worst of the worst cases. This is not done just because parents say, I want to have this. This is after a guardian ad litem has typically been involved for a year or more, and the judge has seen these people repetitively in their office, and the judge has decided at some point that they need an additional layer of investigation because there are so many factors with this family that make it so complicated that it hasn't been able to be resolved.
So you're not looking at danger, but you just said to me that this is the worst of the situations. And so it sounds to me like these kids could more than likely be in some danger.
The worst of the worst is really a reference to the level of conflict between mom and dad. It's not indicative of danger or safety. Like I think you're thinking of, which is, I have to remove this kid from a home because there's abuse, neglect, or maltreatment. That is for the Department of Human Services to determine. We are making a recommendation about placement in custody. So the worst of the worst parents are the ones that cannot resolve the placement schedule for their children in a divorce because they are arguing about it.
Okay.
Thanks, Chairman Farley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your explanation, but my review of this, and I do appreciate the clarification on the old fees. The old fee should always be stated in the ordinance, or in the change, so the board has an idea of what the increase is. However, my review is you're trying to raise fees on individuals or persons who can least afford them. So I share the same concern that Supervisor Powers has raised. Thank you.
Supervisor Albert, and I was able to answer to Supervisor Farley because I thought this other grandparent would end up paying the bill.
Supervisor Zestero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your explanation, and I really appreciate your work. Thank you, because I do understand I'm a trained volunteer mediator. I help the Winnebago County and Fond du Lac County, and I know for them that small claims under 10,000, we give the first 3 hours for free, yes. But this is, I am familiar with mediators that do this type of work, and it's amazing what you all are able to accomplish. And I know that after those 3 free hours in our resolution center structure, it's $240 an hour. So I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Supervisor Hanson.
Yeah, for Supervisor Farley and for Supervisor Powers, I did bring this up at JPS, and we had not only the explanation that you just gave here, but the added, there was a judge there as well that I asked questions to. I understand about the raising of the fee, but no service will be suspended at any time because of either a lack of ability to pay, or whether they're funding, or excuse me, whether they're asking for a relief program of either 50% or all of it. Nothing gets suspended.
In addition, this isn't something that is just assessed to individuals who are low income. This is anybody that comes into the divorce process, regardless of their socioeconomic status when they come in. If they can't resolve the issues because they're too busy arguing with one another, this is the last ditch effort of the court system to get good, in-depth, and involved information. My files are 1 foot to 2 feet thick by the time I am done reviewing every aspect of this family from the present to the 10 years prior. This is not an easy job, and it requires upper level degrees. It requires juggling all kinds of different factors and the personalities of all the family members, not just the parents, step parents, the children, other family members like grandparents. So this is not an easy task.
Supervisor Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as one of the worst who has received some of your help in determining custody in the past, I can attest to the fact that your job is greatly appreciated. It puts some common sense into it. It is not typically, my opinion, the ones that can least afford it. It's the ones that can most afford it that just can't figure out how to make something work. And I kind of resent the fact that the taxpayers end up picking up the tab because those two people can't agree to disagree and move on with their lives. So I think everything you're doing is worth that fee increase and more. Thank you.
Supervisor Dufferin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do want to echo the sentiments of Supervisor Nelson as well. And we have to keep in mind too that in this, it does state that the last time that we've had that we set that fee was in 2001. So it's been, a couple of decades here, and we're all looking at what happens with the with inflation in regards to just paying for our county staff. So and that $525 per parent is actually still considered a loss to the county, because there's a lot of work that's being put in here into that custody study. So really, we're just this is just kind of keeping up with inflation, keeping up with the times, and just making sure we're trying to be as solvent as we can. And we do have a lot of other existing resources within the county if it gets into issues in regards to child safety. And we also have the Conflict Resolution Center as well that handles a lot of that procedure too. So just to remind that custody study is that it really is a last resort thing. And when there's just a very, very lengthy battle between two people. So I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Supervisor Stafford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want to reiterate a lot of what's been said, but again, I do want to just reinforce that no one's turned away, that these are about custody battles between two parties. This is not about any sort of child safety. And even at this increase, there's still a significant discount given. We've seen the cost structures increase. We continue to talk about how we need to pay our people more, but yet we don't have a good way to recover some of that increased cost. And the last point is that a lot of the detail that's been asked was discussed at committee, as well as is included in the agenda item report, including what the current rate is and the history along with that. Thank you.
Supervisor Albert.
I just had a comment. My wife tells people I've been married for 63 years. She's never been sorry when she married me, but she'd like to bump me once in a while.
Okay. All right, resolution number 186-022-023. Yes, sir. What's the matter? Do you have something? Oh. No. I think we better just use our iPads on this, so use your, we'll use our iPads. Just to make sure. So if you're in favor of resolution number 186-022-023, vote A. If you're against it, vote nay. It passed 32-3. Resolution number 187-022-023, approval of a capital improvement project in the amount of $230,000 for the replacement of the Oshkosh Human Service Building, public elevator controls, and necessary building modifications to be funded with a transfer from unassigned general fund balance, which will either reduce the unassigned general fund balance or will reimburse by a subsequent bond. Supervisor Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of resolution number 18702-2023.
Seconded by Norton. Supervisor Gabbard.
This is just a question maybe for Supervisor Buck. Do you know, I thought I saw that this went out for bids. Do you know if it was going out for bids?
Yep, it hasn't, yeah.
Okay, do you have the bids? And is the 230 gonna do it, or will you become? Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're trying to follow up in the community, Mike, and Supervisor Buck. When do you think this can be completed? Because this has been, already been on for quite a long time, and I'm very not wanting to get this done. So when do you think it could be finished?
It will be expedited as fast as we can get it. As you've heard numerous times on the board floor here, we're at the mercy of the supply system. I don't have a good date yet because nobody's committed to buying the parts until we get the money and the funding and the project approved.
Okay, resolution number 187-022-023. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Say nay. Carried. Resolution number 188-022-023. Approve an extension of ground lease between Cellco Partnership, DBA Verizon Wireless in Winnebago County and Outagamie County. Supervisor Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of resolution number 18802-2023.
Seconded by Ellenberg. Supervisor Ellenberg. Supervisor Nussbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When this came before the PMF, I asked for the contract for if there was liability. I want to make sure that we have that.
Yes.
This was involving an extension of an original contract that went back approximately 20 years, but Supervisor, or I should say, Mike Elder was able to get me the contract that we were looking at, and yes, there are indemnification clauses, so your insurance question should not be, it's not an issue.
What is liability?
Basically, Verizon agrees to indemnify us from any and all costs, including reasonable attorney's fees and claims of liability. It's right in the language.
Okay. This requires a 2/3, no. Resolution number 188-022-023. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Say nay. Carried. Resolution number 189-022-023, authorizing the purchase of Turnock handheld narcotic analyzer and 2 Turnock solution kits for Sheriff's Department to be funded from opioid abatement account. Supervisor Stafford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve resolution 189-02-2023.
And it's seconded by Gustafson. Supervisor Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to give some credit here for this process. This started with Supervisor Conley Hansen. I give all the credit to him for getting the ball rolling on this, doing the research, talking to the stakeholders, the MEG unit, specifically the Sheriff's Department, and doing the research on this and shepherding it through committee. The credit is all his for this. This would be a boon to our Sheriff's Department and rural policing as well. I know that City of Menasha has one, Village of Fox Crossing has one, the MEG unit does, but the Sheriff's Department does not. And when we talk about not forgetting about the townships, this is not forgetting about the townships. We are doing our best here to try to give
the sheriff's department a capability that the cities have that the sheriff's department does not. So I want to thank Supervisor Hanson for putting this together. And if you have any questions, please direct them to the sheriff. Thank you.
Supervisor Hanson.
Thank you. I hope everyone has had a chance to see the supporting documents for this. I became concerned because of the overdoses. If you see the coroner's report attached, especially when you see the fentanyl. And then when I learned about the Menasha officer that was exposed to fentanyl and needed to be given the true Narcan doses, I believe it was 2 doses to revive him. Then there was the officer in Orlando, Florida, on a traffic stop that had to be given something. And then just very recently in January, 11 officers at one time were exposed and all hospitalized. So I'm hoping that you'll advance this, because the sheriff has graciously also agreed that this unit will be mobile to the jail unit so that they can test for safety, as well as I maintain that it is also for citizen safety, because if you look at the coroner's report and the amount of fentanyl, I don't know if everyone may be aware of just exactly what they have, and this unit is going to identify it. Thank you.
I just want to thank Mr. Chairman. Sheriff, how can an officer become exposed to fentanyl in the line of duty like that?
Well, the Menasha officer was at an overdose and was administering CPR. During that, he was exposed to fentanyl, and that's common at scenes. We don't know, and we have to render aid. And we don't, obviously we can put on protective clothing, but, or a mask or gloves, but we can still, it gets in contact with the skin, it's absorbed, and it's very dangerous.
And I guess if you're administering CPR, administering CPR, that would definitely be a way you could be exposed to it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is anyone else? Resolution number 189-022-023. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Say nay. Carried. Resolution number 190-022-023, amend County Board Rule 6, order of business to replace 6.1 parent E, approval and correction of minutes of the previous meeting with a consent calendar. Supervisor Stafford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the approval of resolution 190-02-2023.
The second by Supervisor Ellenberger. Supervisor Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't keeping exact numbers tonight, but just going through our zoning and accommodations, which were things that we had discussed that would be on this previously when we talked about this. We had about 15 to 20 minutes that we spent just reading through the items and then taking the vote for each item. The one thing that would have been pulled out by me, which would have been item number 08 for the housekeeping, we could have accomplished all of those votes in 2 votes tonight. And we would have saved ourselves approximately 15 minutes of our time. So just to put into perspective what we're trying to accomplish with a consent agenda or consent calendar. That's the kind of things that we're doing. We're not trying to do this to sneak things under the radar. We're trying to do it to pick up time where we can, because these meetings can get lengthy. Thank you.
Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we have the consent calendar, would we still read those biographical sketches of those people who are retiring? We're over 227, 216, I got 227, over 200 years of service from these people. And I liked hearing who they were and what they did and what it is. Would we still hear those things and then at the end say, we're going to combine all of these and vote to commend all of these? Are we going to still read the commendations, the biographical sketches?
As long as I'm doing the agenda, yes, they will be doing that. But then on the end, instead of Mr. Cox having to go through them all again, they'll all be combined into one and approved all at once.
I would not want to see that in. Thank you.
Not seeing any other questions. All those resolution number 190-022-023 signify by saying aye. Say nay. Carried. Resolution number 191-022-023, establish an ad hoc task force on the per diem structure of the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors. Supervisor Stafford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Give me 1 second, let's get to that page. I move for the approval of resolution 191-02-2023.
Seconded by Gustafson. Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering what the task force is looking at in terms of per diem. We just raised our per diem a year ago. And I'm just wondering, what is it that they hope to look at?
All I can say is they're going to look at it and study it. What they actually wanted to do originally was to put this one and the task force for the committee structure, put them together at one time, but then they decided to leave them separate and do each one separate. Like this one here will have 7 members on.
But what do they want to look at for our per diems?
Well, you'll have to find out what the task force comes up with, I guess. It'll all have to come back from here. Because Supervisor Stafford will be picking the 7, which him and I talked about, but it'll still come back to the full board, just like if I pick a committee or whatever, it has to come back for the board for the approval of the names that are on there. And him and I talked about that earlier, so, and he has no problem with that. So there'll be 7 on that one. And Supervisor Stafford, did you have anything that you wanted to add on that per diem, the question that you had asked, what you're going to be looking for?
You bet. The first is, again, this is a very similar conversation as we've had with the ad hoc committee. This is about making sure that the compensation structure is appropriate to the current environment. And I don't believe from the conversations within committee, and of course the main sponsors will be able to comment on this as well, is to necessarily even say that it should necessarily change the specific amount, but maybe it's how it's compensated. There's a variety of different ways that we can be compensated. We could be compensated like now, which is per diem. We could be compensated in a monthly manner on a like a salary almost. Lots of different ways we can go about it. And as we continue to look at the right way to structure committee work, I think this is a logical additional item to look at to make sure that we are also right-sizing the way that we structure our compensation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The idea here was to have these two hand in hand, but given the parliamentary procedure, we couldn't do that at this time. But this resolution stems from the question, how can we better reflect adequately compensating supervisors for their time while right-sizing what we have to pay out. And so I think this is something that needs to be looked at. We do have something in state law called the Freedom Statute. We have the capability to self-organize. I know this is something that I've been talking with Supervisor Stafford for a while about. And this ad hoc task force just takes a look at studying the compensation structure and seeing, are there any changes that we may make to better suit the county, especially if we're going in a different direction with committees. There may be no changes, there may be some substantial changes. The other thing that I did want to talk about is the fact that currently there is no kind of structure as to what a supervisor is obligated, what meetings they're obligated to attend to. So in county ordinance, the reading of the section for supervisor per diems is a supervisor may claim per diems for a committee meeting that he or she is
obligated to attend to. There is no operational definition of the word obligated. So the fact is that we can have people go to committee meetings who aren't on those committees and they can claim per diems for them. And that is something that I see as a loophole, and I think the county board would be prudent to close. The idea that I had in discussions, preliminary discussions about this was that if we go to a flat base where everybody is compensated for the number of county board meetings that there are that month, say 1 or 2, and then from there they can add on the committees that they are assigned to and not the ones that they just go to. Because I know that there are some supervisors that like to go to more committee meetings than they are assigned to, and some can only go to the ones that they are assigned to go to. So the way I see this is that how do we accurately reflect the work that people actually put in to show that this is a volunteer position, not a full-time job, while still adequately compensating them for their work. So this is something that, again, I would like everybody to have some robust conversation on if we do decide to move forward with this. I would like, especially members of committees who meet frequently, like planning and zoning, I would like a lot of robust input and discussion from them. Supervisors that have been here for longer versus supervisors that just showed up last April or even earlier or even later. So the idea behind this is studying how can we right size, how can we close some loopholes, how can we save some funds while still adequately compensating supervisors for the work that they do. And so this is not a pay raise. This is not something that I would ever consider would be appropriate if it was a pay raise. This is just right sizing and looking at that and seeing where can we kind of trim some of the fat as it stands within the loopholes and within the current outlay of the committee structure. And if that changes, we may need to adjust this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you tell me why you decided to let the judiciary chairman pick the members, not you? Because just like a task force, if this is going to deal with the whole county board, why are you not picking the committee members? Okay. I was. Well, okay, at this point, I'm going to move to amend line 22 and strike chairman of the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee and have it say chairman of the county board.
That amendment, so we'll go through. Supervisor Parley on the amendment.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm up. My apologies. Was my chance to speak?
On the amendment, this going on.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, not on the amendment.
Supervisor Hanson on the amendment.
No, it's not on the amendment, sorry.
Supervisor White on the amendment.
Not on the amendment.
Supervisor Hudson on the amendment. Supervisor Hobart on the amendment.
Yes, I believe that the county board chairman should have that right to make those decisions.
Supervisor Stadler on the amendment.
No.
Well, we'll vote on that, and if there's nobody else on there. So, motion to waive second that county board chairman will get appointed for the committee of 7 to go on that task force. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those say nay. Nay. Carried. Back on. Okay. Okay, back on resolution 191, 0.2, 023.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just add one more time that this is something that aims to study, can we save the county staff time? Can we save the taxpayers money? And can we save supervisors time in filling out their per diem sheets? This is more of an efficiency maneuver for our resources and our time, and it's just exploratory, same as the committee structure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would also like to put in a resolution to make an adjustment to line 20, where it says of the 7 supervisors appointed. I would like to change that to 4 supervisors and three citizens.
I think that it would be good to have an outside, here we are making rules for ourselves on this, and I would like to have the citizens are the ones that are paying for it. And the citizens might wind up being past supervisors or something like that, but I would make a motion that we change that from 7 supervisors to 4 supervisors and 3 citizen members. Thank you.
Yes, on the amendment, I really hear the amendment and understand it. The only thing I'm worried about is on a citizen appointment for this one, there may not be the involvement. So I don't think I'll support that one.
Thank you, Chairman. Also, not just that, what Hanson just said, but what about time constraints also? Because this has to be done fairly quickly, because if you notice on the, sorry, I can't pull that up and talk at the same time, but if you notice on the resolution that it has an end date, and this is something that we're trying to accomplish or have some sort of recommendation for the board prior to the election. So if we're looking at also finding people in the community, it might take longer also. And it kind of needs to be done prior to the election, but we do have an end date, I think, of April 24. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with some of the sentiment that of the timing, but also the setting precedents that like Supervisor Wise is, so we're going to set our own salaries. I think it doesn't pass a smell test. I think at the very least, we should try to involve the citizens of Winnebago County in this endeavor. And if it doesn't work this term, then maybe we move to a different choice. So I will be supporting this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that when I went up for election, I had no idea that I was going to be paid for doing this. It felt to me that it was a responsibility as a citizen of the county of Winnebago that I do this. I'm concerned that if we ask citizens to be involved, they're going to sit there and say, what are you doing paying yourself? Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've got a point of order. And that point of order is, if you're going to affect a supervisor's income salary effect, you have to get it done before they take out the papers for the next election. So somewhere in there, you're going to have to make a friendly amendment, have it done by November 30th, 2023. Otherwise, there's no chance for any change to happen in April. So any way you want to treat that, that's my point. Yeah, well, maybe what I can do is I'd like to amend the amendment so that when we're taking on 3 citizen members, we have all of this work done to be changes to be effective prior to November 30th. Be it further resolved that all changes, rather than saying that on 9/23, be it further resolved that the ad hoc task force report back for October business meeting. October 2023 business meeting. That way, we will be able to take the information and we'll be able to put it on the agenda and have it considered by the board, whether they want to make any change or even increase the per diem.
Yes. Do we need to vote on the amendment before exceeding Supervisor Ison's motion? Right. We got it in there first. First of all, I want to ask all of the letters equal. Motion on the floor, seconded by Norman. We have 4 supervisors and 3 citizens. Now we have to vote on first. So all those in favor of that signify by saying aye. Aye. Don't say nay. Nay. Ayes have it. That didn't pass. So, you want to go on something else, Supervisor Eisen? I think that's all.
Well, I'd like to make a friendly amendment.
Because that's the way it's legal. That on line 23, we approve the resolve that we had
October 1st, 2023. That way, they'll get the information in and we'll be able to have whatever changes is desired by the body for taking out the petition papers on December 1st. But someone's got to second that.
Report to the board, is that what you said?
Yeah, report to the board by October 1st.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the logistical sorting out here by Supervisor Eisen. I want to ask how that is going to square with lines 21 and 22 that ask the task force to report its findings and recommendations to the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee for consideration, and potentially suggest that the work on October 1st should be transitioned to the October Judiciary and Public Safety Committee meeting, stay consistent with 21 and line 21. Sort of setting this task force up to report in 2 places, one of which is time bound, but the one that comes sort of before it, in origination, doesn't have a time bound. I want to ask Mr. Supervisor Eisen his thoughts. Is this better for you?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so my question is about if the task force is reporting on October 1st to the county board, that feels inconsistent with lines 21 and 22, which ask that task force to report its findings and recommendations to judiciary and public safety. So my question for you, Supervisor Eisen, is would you be willing to change your amendment so that the required report in October is first to the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee so that we can start the recommendations on a track that ultimately ends at the board for consideration and implementation before that December 1st deadline that you referenced?
As you said, September 1st to the Judiciary Committee. Rather than report to and you can have it report to the board prior to October 1st. So that if your Judiciary Committee meets the first Monday in September is Labor Day. So it's going to be the second Monday. Second Monday may be too close to the date of the county board meeting. So I would ask for the Corporation Council to wordsmith it so that we can accomplish what you have pointed out, which is consistent with the resolution, and then the legal aspect of being able to put in a change in force because of what the state statutes say.
So to make sure that I am following your intent, Supervisor Eisen, if we were to say, starting on line 20, be it further resolved that this ad hoc task force will consist of 7 supervisors appointed by the chairman of the county board and will report its findings and recommendations to the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee in September 2023, and followed by a report to the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors in October 2023. Does that mesh with what you want?
That will accomplish, that will give us extra cushion time to consider any other questions that would come up in the like citizens commenting from the gallery.
Is that the motion?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Corporation Council.
Sure. Starting in line 20, be it further resolved that this ad hoc task force will consist of 7 supervisors appointed by the chairman of the Winnebago County Board and will report its findings and recommendations to the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee in September 23 and report its findings and recommendations to the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors in October 2023. Is that clear?
Somebody second it.
Second.
All these lights on, you want to talk about that? I do.
Okay, I want to make sure I talk in the microphone so Supervisor Eisen definitely can hear me. I think I have a clear way out of this. I have a clear way out. I'm right next to it. I have a clear way out of this with a lot less words, nothing. Take out line 23. Be it further resolved that this ad hoc task force will present its final report by and automatically disband on November 1st, 2023. Covers all of everything you're trying to do right now with just that one change in the line. I'm asking him if he would accept that as a friendly, because it's accomplishing everything you want to do.
Whatever the chair
Because the way this would read, one more time, just so everybody gets it. Be it further resolved that this ad hoc task force will present its final report by and automatically disband on November 1st, 2023. That's it. That's the change.
Present its final report to which group?
Well, it's supposed to, there's,
And Winnebago Board of Supervisors.
well, according to this, they're supposed to report to GPS. Am I wrong on that? And it would come here from GPS. So they present their final report to GPS as it would be written on here. So we're not changing any of that up there. And then it would come here from GPS. And it would still get in time to meet the November 30 deadline.
So then present its final report to the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors in October 2023. Is that right?
No, none of the other changes that were above it I was just changing one line. I was asking him if he was amenable to that because it covers what he's trying to do. Because if they present their final report to JPS, which is who they are required to report to in here, that will be done prior to November 1st, which means it would come to the next board meeting. So they would do that in October to the JPS. Then it would come to our meeting in November, which would cover the meeting being in before November 30th. And therefore, we don't have to have all that wordsmithing and all those dates. Now we're just making it very clear.
Can you read? Just.
I'm actually trying to make this more simple.
Chairman Egan, may I ask Supervisor Mills, could you please read from line 20 what you're proposing?
From line 20. Okay. Be it further resolved that this ad hoc task force will consist of 7 supervisors appointed by the chairman of the county board. And will
Winnebago
County Board.
Yeah.
And will report its findings and recommendations to the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee for consideration.
Okay.
And be it further resolved that this ad hoc task force will present its final report by and automatically disband on November 1st, 2023. So they will be presenting the report to JPS as stated in line 22. And GPS would then deal with that report in October because that's when the meeting will be, because they wouldn't be meeting in November because it's November 1st. And then the meeting coming from GPS to the county board would be in November.
So what is the date you're putting when you said present its final report by?
I'm replacing April 1st with November 1st, 2023.
Can you, again, read line 23
Would it
again?
be easier if I came up there and showed you?
No, why don't you just say it? That might make
I did just say it.
No, I didn't, it didn't make sense to me. Say it again, please.
Be it further resolved that this ad hoc task force will present its final report by and automatically disband on November 1st, 2023.
Okay. It's presented to whom?
JPS as stated in line 22.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
And I'm offering this as a friendly because I think you understand that. Actually, it's not.
Okay, well, we do have a motion made and seconded.
You're the one putting all the dates in, I'm trying to remove the dates.
Vice Chairman Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Procedurally, we have a motion by Mr. Eisen and a second. And that needs.
By Supervisor Powers.
Right, well, I was offering it as a friendly. And he declined it, so I'm.
Okay.
Understand it, I guess.
Supervisor Powers, did you have anything?
I was only going to say, I guess I thought that once we changed who was appointing the 7 supervisors from judiciary to the chairman of the Winnebago County Board, that there was no reason to send all this stuff back to judiciary, but this ad hoc task force being appointed by the county board chairman would then report back to the Winnebago County Board chairman. How come JPS is still So getting in the loop of all this, they presented as a possibility, but you are appointing the supervisors, they should report back to you, shouldn't they?
Well, I can say that they will report back to me, but that they will still, they're gonna meet as a committee, I'm gonna say JP. They're gonna meet as that, and whoever them 7 are in there, they will talk it over and put it together, just like they will the other task force. Both task forces are coming through JPS.
Sure. And can I just point out, there are county board rules that talk about per diem, and the rules are within the jurisdiction of judiciary. So that's how judiciary has gotten involved. Thank you, that clears that up. Thank you, Mary Ann.
Okay, Supervisor Nussbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this a friendly amendment? No. Okay. I call a question.
Okay. Questions are called. Okay, you all know what the motion is? Right, okay. So motion has been made for calling the question. We have a second? Motion made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Nay. Guys have it. Motion that we're voting on?
I'm gonna let you know that I do not have the words exactly. I might lean towards my numbers to the side of me. But yes, please.
Corporate counsel is going to read exactly how it is.
Let's see if this sounds right. Again, on line 20 of resolution 191-02-2023. Be it further resolved that this ad hoc task force will consist of 7 supervisors appointed by the chairman of the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors, and will report its findings and recommendations to the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee in September 2023, and report to the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors in October 2023. And be it further resolved that this ad hoc task force will automatically disband on November 1st, 2023.
Yeah, that's your motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Will say nay. Nay. We'll do it by a machine. You guys have it, but my wife keeps telling me my ears are going, so. Okay, vote aye if you're in favor of it, nay if you're not. Pass 28-7. Okay. Resolution number 192-022-023, authorizing Winnebago County. Yes, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, yes. I apologize, so excited. Okay, we'll go back to resolution number 191-022-023, establish an ad hoc task force on per diem structure of the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors. You all heard those in the amendment, so all those in favor, Supervisor Nussbaum.
Call the question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Say nay. Nay. Carried. Now resolution 19. On the last. You got a second. Okay, but I thought I did. Resolution number 191-022-023, establish an ad hoc task force on the per diem structure of the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Carried. Resolution number 192-022-023, authorizing Winnebago County to enter into a settlement agreement with Tiller Pharmaceutical Industries Ltd. and Legend Finance LLC, Walgreen Company, Walmart Inc., ZBC Health Corporation, and CBC Pharmacy Inc. agreed to the terms of the to the MOU allocation settlement proceeds and authorize entry into the MOU with the Attorney General. I'm going to let corporate counsel speak on this if she wants, because this is why we had to have the amendment sent out. In layman's terms.
I'll do my best. So the day after the county board packet was sent out, we received this packet from National Council. We had been waiting for it. I was reaching out because we were told that there was a deadline of March to go through this. So what does this involve? As you know, we have been involved with opioid legislation. Starting in 2017, lawsuits targeted 3 groups: manufacturers, distributors, and retail chain pharmacies. And as you all know, a prior board voted to enter this litigation, and there was a settlement. Well, now there is a new settlement, and it is with Allergan, Teva, CVS, Walmart, and Walgreens. In terms of the manufacturers, and that's Allergan and Teva, Allergan is, the proposal is paying $2.37 billion to be paid over 6 years. Teva to pay $4.25 billion to be paid over 13 years. In terms of the pharmacies, Walgreens to pay $5.7 billion over 15 years. CVS to pay $5 billion over 10 years, and Walmart to pay $3.1 billion over 5 years. So adding all of that up, it's close to $50 billion, but just don't think it's coming to Winnebago County. This is a national settlement. But as another important piece is that there is also non-monetary relief. Teva and Allergan have agreed to strict limitations on their marketing, their promotions, their sale, and their distributions of opioids, including a ban on lobbying and promotion, rewarding or disciplining employees based on the volume of opioid sales they've made. Walmart, CVS, and Walgreens, the pharmacies, are required to implement changes in how they handle the opioids in terms of compliance structures. So basically what we have here are all of these documents, and I know it's pretty thick, but essentially, like the first settlement, all of the counties are being approached with this. The greater participation level, the more money that can come into Wisconsin. So we are asking you in the resolution to basically authorize the county to enter into these settlement agreements and agree to the terms of addendums and a memorandum of understanding regarding allocating the settlement proceeds. You will see in the packet that there is an allocation of proceeds amongst local governments. That allocation was from the first settlement with Johnson & Johnson and the Big Three. And in that, the number referenced was that Winnebago County would be entitled to an allocation share of 2.176%. The attorneys are saying we can expect that percentage to be similar for these settlements. But again, we'll have a better idea once we hear all of the other counties and how many counties are being involved. But this is all of the material I got. I have to thank Chairman Stafford and Chairman Cox for allowing me to go to Personnel and Finance and Judiciary with the material we had. But again, it's evolving, and literally we received this the day after the county board packets were sent out. So that's what this is about. Bottom line is, you can vote yay or nay. If you say yes, then there's a potential for a payout. If you folks decide no, then there is no potential. But again, that's what this is in a nutshell.
Thank you. Supervisor Cox, you want to introduce it? You're on.
I would like to move a resolution authorizing Winnebago County to enter into a settlement agreement with Teva Pharmaceuticals Industries Limited, Allen Finance LLC, Walgreen Company, Walmart Incorporated, CVS Health Corporation, and CVS Pharmacy Incorporated, agreeing to the terms of the addendum to the MOU allocating settlement proceeds and authorize entry into the MOU with the Attorney General. This resolution is 19202-2023 amended.
Seconded by Supervisor Ellenberger. Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to share with the board my thin sketch of what this is all about. There's a big pot of money out there, I think maybe $50 billion, and the lawyers get 25% of it. Winnebago County's share would be estimated to be between 1.5 and $3.1 million, of which our proceeds, 20% will go to the attorney's fees. And the rest is history. Whatever we get out of it, it's not going to come from the taxpayer's dollar.
Supervisor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My questions are for corporate counsel. In the resolution, and they regard the law firm fees, in the resolution on lines 78 and 94, it references 25%. And then in lines 124 and 127, it says 20%.
And I saw that and asked National Counsel about it. And the answer was that's the difference between the contract amount, 25%, and the amount the attorneys are asking to be withheld for the settlement, 20%. Because the anticipated payout of the national fund. But in no event can the fees exceed the contracted 25%.
Okay, and how does that align then with the MOU with Wisconsin local government? I think it was the second one in our packet. On page 2, paragraph 2, it references the 20% again.
Again, they were saying that they are going to have 20% withheld for the settlement because of the anticipated payout from the national fund, which would contribute an additional 5%. So that's where how it jives.
Okay, and then my last question is lines 136 through 138. Be it further resolved that all actions heretofore taken by the Board of Supervisors and other appropriate public officers and agents of Winnebago County with respect to the matters contemplated under this resolution are hereby ratified, confirmed, and approved. In ordinary, non-legal words, can you just put us on notice what those 3 lines mean so we know exactly what we're voting for?
Sure, you're voting for entering into the settlement agreement with these various entities, the pharmacies and the manufacturers, and you're agreeing to the participation agreements with the Attorney General, and that's basically what it is.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Not seeing any other questions? All those in favor of resolution number 192022023 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Yes. And we have 1 abstention. Resolution number 193022023, approval of a budget transfer in the amount of $23,000 from contingency fund for the government accounting standard board 87 lease for 2022 audit. Supervisor Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move the resolution approval of the budget transfer in the amount of $23,000 from the contingency fund for the GASB Government Accounting Standards Board, 87 leases for the 2022 audit. That resolution number is 193022023.
That's seconded by Supervisor Ryan.
Thank you.
Supervisor Eisen.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There appears to be a conflict between what's said in the amount in the resolution and the amount in the agenda item report. If you look at the request in the agenda item report, it said total price of $15,000 for 2022. And in the resolution, it says the amount of $23,000 for 2022. Which one is it, 15 or 23?
That's wrong.
I would refer to, Director of Finance Kaiser.
You're gonna get the last word.
On agenda item, this one was passed last month at the board meeting. This one is of transfer of wages for CLA. So the agenda item for the GASB 87 leases is not attached here. So however this was put together, it was put together wrong. So it is $23,000. The 15,000 was passed last month in a resolution for CLA professional fees.
Supervisor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is the 23,000 a one-time expense, or is this a program with an annual subscription fee?
This is a debt software that is a year fee if we choose to continue using it. That is going to be something we're gonna look at if we can do it elsewhere. But right now is to get them to look at those CPAs and their letters to go through 153 leases for us, to get them categorized for 87 leases, and to have this done by April 10th. So we're ready for the audit, and now it's come in, so that only gives us like 45 days to get this taken care of. So that's why we're looking at hiring to do that. Yearly is going to be another choice if we decide to do that for forward.
Thank you.
Supervisor Hanson.
Yes, sir, question for Corporation Counsel, and I almost hesitate to bring it up because I just heard the 45 days. Because of Supervisor Eisen catching the difference and this not being a proper exhibit, does that mean we cannot technically vote on this? Because the exhibit is not, the proper exhibit is not attached.
The gist of the resolution presumably has everything that the agenda item report had. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's correct.
Because again, Director Kaiser prepared the agenda item report. And typically, when we prepare resolutions, they're based on the agenda item report.
Okay, it's not my intention to postpone it unless that would be a discrepancy for housekeeping concerns.
No, because again, the gist is in the resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, resolution number 193-022-023. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Carried. Supervisor Albert. Motion made and second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Adjourned. Please.